We're here with G2, and you guys had a phenomenal season through this last split, and you're coming into this LAN as #1 in NA once again. How are you feeling coming into this?
We feel pretty great. Obviously, the season was, it felt like a breeze. We come into LAN, obviously, with the same mentality as any LAN. We're here to win and do our best. But we are pretty confident in our ability, and through PPL, that's obviously influenced. So.
No, yeah, PPL felt great. Coming into this team, I had confidence from before. I knew we were gonna do well. I had no faith. Can I read that for a second? Yeah, keep going. Okay. I had full faith in the team. I knew coming in early that we'd do extremely well. And coming out of SK, joining this team again, it just felt like home. It just felt natural again, so.
Now, a team full of veterans, obviously. I mean, you get to include yourself in that conversation, Vex, as being a veteran. A lot of people would put you at the top when it came to support roles in North America. How was it transitioning into this team where Cuss was kind of taking over that lead role of support and calls to you kind of fitting your way in? I know you were very vocal on SK and before that when you were with Astral. So how natural did this transition really feel for you?
It was really natural. I took my comms and I kind of moved it to more positional stuff. I kind of talk to the team, I tell them what I see, and I tell them what they should do. Cuss still keeps the comms as frontline, but I had a lot of that on SK where I was the Cuss of SK, where I'd had the big comms and I would call all the plays. But I kind of took a step back for this team, and it's worked out for the better so far.
And with that transition, having Cuss, moving to frontline, you coming in as the support, everything about the team has kind of looked like it took that step up. Has anything really changed team dynamic-wise bringing you in, or has it just felt like this solid fit?
I feel like the only thing that changed from knowing the past is we're just more aggressive. We're not afraid to do what we want. It felt very limited in watching G2 before. As soon as I joined in Cuss's frontline, we can just do whatever we want. Any play, any comp, any style, just whatever we want to do.
Now, Kyle, last thing for you, and well, you too as Vex, but last time you guys were here 3 months ago, not exactly living up to where your expectations were. Is there still a little bit of a chip to kind of brush off the shoulder here as you guys come back, or is that all past news and you're ready for action this time around?
Yeah, it's really different from now and last LAN. Obviously, we've got roster changes, and a lot of things have changed. It's still there, but we've pinpointed a lot of the problems that we had last LAN, and I feel like we won't have them here. So I'm expecting us to do a whole lot better, and obviously, we're not too worried about last LAN. So,
watching G2 at last LAN, because I wasn't here last LAN. I felt like they were just limited before. They weren't able to change their play style. They were just limited to just staying back and hoping they'd win. So I think coming into this LAN, everything's changing. You're going to see a good G2 this LAN.
All right, no holds this time. Good luck, guys. We'll see you in the field.
appreciate it.
I'm digging the new jerseys that they get. If you're going to come for NA, then you better show up for NA.
I mean, they're rocking it in the way things are going, and it sounds like the team's really confident with their performance so far. I mean, the split is a testament to how well they've been doing, but it sounds like they are carrying that kind of emotion into this.
It was really cool hearing Vex because we haven't gotten to speak to him directly since things happened as far as being here, and he seems really excited to be back with the boys that he once played with before. The way that they've been playing is so dominating, and as a roster, those that were already strong players have been stepping it up even more.
And one of the things that he had said was that now they feel as though G2 has a lot more flexibility than they did the last time they were at LAN, and that just ties into what Nick was saying at the end of the last set. Whichever team can flex around onto these maps the best is going to be the team that can take it all. Ideally, coming into this, there were 4 teams today that really could have taken away a win, Fnatic being the first one to do so. Either of these two, I think, are going to be strong enough too.
It's pretty crazy stuff. One of these teams is going to go on to the grand finals to face off against Fnatic, so they know who their foe will be, but they got to get past their fellow NA brethren first. And this tale has been not as long-standing as the Na'Vi versus Fnatic, but within this season so far, been pretty interesting.
And it was really weird for this season specifically because it felt like it was kind of the same theme where it's like, okay, in a best of 5, they're going to go 5 games. You give them best of 7, they're going to go 7 games. It's going to be like 3-3 in the last map, and that's going to be what decides it all, that very last point. And then during the split, this online split did not happen that way at all. It was 3-0s pretty much all the time. G2 looked just dominant. But that was one of the things. Envy has always shown a little bit more strength on LAN, I think, than we've seen online.
And they are here and ready as well. We did get to speak to a couple of them, so let's hear what they had to say.
Hi guys, hope you arrived safely, and this will be obviously one of 2 games you have guaranteed to play this weekend, coming up first against G2. How are you feeling about this matchup in particular, having not won a game against them in the online portion?
We're feeling pretty good. It was a tough break early on in the split. Rock had a vacation that he couldn't avoid, so he had to play with a sub. They definitely got the better of us the second go-around, but, we have a history of performing when it comes to LAN, or, peaking when we need to peak, so we're definitely pretty confident. We're ready to play them twice.
So kind of off of that, do you feel there's going to be a difference between your LAN performance and then the regular split performance as far as the strategies that you're bringing through against G2?
Definitely, because we have more specific preparations for G2 this time since we had a very good gap of when we knew we were going to have to face G2. So we have good strategies prepared for them. So we have to face them twice against in the summer LAN afterwards. So we're ready.
I feel like just looking at the spring split and the spring finals, you guys always performed really well coming off a loss. When you got the opportunity to go and sit and watch what maybe went wrong, you came back and you were 10 times stronger. What can you guys do to make that no longer the case? Because that's nice, but you'd like to look good just coming on cold.
Really, there's not much. There's not much you can do actual practice-wise to prepare for that. It's all just about execution. And sometimes the truth is that it just takes a while to get a hold of the meta, and that's one of the reasons these PPLs, like these split finals, are so important and actually really helpful for teams like us, because we're able to get those trial and error things. But we're definitely comfortable coming in. We're not trying to play off the momentum and just win the Masters. We want to win this one too.
Last question for you guys. Sulk, you can take this one. How is Furia going to affect this event?
Oh boy, Furia. Furia is a very strong support champion in terms of both healing and damage. One of her legendaries is banned for this line, which is the Beal heal legendary. But Cherish itself is a really strong legendary. You can full heal people if you don't have Cauterize. And one of her in-deck cards gives a shield, which means you kind of need both Cauterize and Wrecker to deal with her. And she's a pretty high priority pick. You could even see bans.
She's a good trade. You can trade her for other really strong champions, which is the biggest impact in my opinion.
Can't wait to see you boys. Good luck in your first match.
Thank you.
Both Metapusher and Tolkien always have a lot of great insight into the game.
I feel like the way that was, I guess, discussed about Furia is kind of the way everyone felt coming into this. Just, oh boy, Furia.
Furia.
It's just, she's got such capabilities. She has a lot that she can apply for your team all around that makes it a little bit more difficult. And so I'm interested to see, we saw, Fnatic pick her up. We saw success there. I want to know how NA plays her, because I feel like it's going to be similar styles, but different drafts that really enable her.
With the drafts that happened in the first set, we had talked about on the desk how it seemed they were mostly trying to keep things open. Do you expect NA to have a similar strategy?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see if they prioritize her, because it was one thing. Fnatic picked her third every single time, and it's like that perfect spot as well, because it's like, okay, well, we have Furia, but we also have a little bit of the core that we want. We have something that's going to be a pillar for our entire draft, and then we have a little bit of flexibility to go for counter picks or just whatever will close this off as strongly as possible. And I'm kind of curious to see if this is going to be the same case, or again, if she kind of escalates to banned or first pick.
Metapusher had mentioned there was a short time when they had to play without Rock Monkey. He went on some vacay, but he came back, and he's been a strong pillar for this team for quite a while now. How do you think that he's going to impact this particular match?
I mean, again, you're looking at a team that online is deadly, and then when they get on LAN, and once they're comfortable, I think everything just lines up for them. Rock Monkey, his aim is, there's a big reason that their team has been kind of, I want to say, targeted by some of the top teams across the world, just because he can shoot so well on LAN that there's a difficult aspect of how do we deal with him? Do we have to focus him down? Do we try to ban out the champions he's good with? Do we pick him away? How do we isolate it so he can't just run through the show and carry the team?
There is a reason that one of the admins say they love watching his monitor during the LANs, because it's insane to see the way he connects some of these shots. But do you think that the enemy team, you have people like I Drop Bodies, who we would always say sometimes their success was dependent upon if he was feeling himself or not, but I feel that he's been feeling himself a bit more consistently in these games.
The team, again, looks a lot more comfortable now than they did even just the last time they were here at LAN. So coming into this, Drop Bodies, I actually expect his task is going to be often deal with Rock Monkey, kill him off, do something, either if they go for a flank for him or if it's just going to be that long-range fight. I think whoever can hit their shots just a little bit more consistently in that kind of matchup is going to be the one that pulls their team just a little bit of a lead.
I would say, just looking at the pictures too, facial hair is pretty much on point for G2, it seems. Whether it's the stash from Cuss last time, you see Body's always rocking his nice and trimmed, looking slick in these new jerseys. But the fact that Vex, he wasn't here during the last LAN because he was with SK who didn't qualify, and now he's here this time. Similar situation to Lazy, in fact.
And it's in that area where I would say similar, like, he has a lot of experience in the past, especially with this team, so he knows them very well, very comfortable with them. Coming into this, again, they feel comfortable. They sound like they're absolutely comfortable, so they don't really seem to have that many worries about, oh man, is Vex going to perform? Are we going to be able to get, like, is he going to have any landers? It's just, everything's going solid, and they're just ready to go. It looks like a team that is pretty much just kind of shrugged it off, said, well, we went 8-0 in the online. We're just going to keep trying to go that same route here.
And Random Noob, the resident blaster for the team, who also ended up flexing on things like the Mave, which was a huge shock to the town during the last LAN. Not as much picked up so far today, ever since those nerfs happened to a couple of her cards. Yeah. Do you think they might try to bust her out?
And again, it kind of goes back to what we were saying when we were on Esports Weekly, where it just comes down to the fact that without the damage reduction, she's a little bit riskier to play, a lot easier to take down than she was before. So while she still has some decent damage there, the 25% stuff, 35% bonus damage on pounce, it just isn't as prioritized. I want to say she's going to be that kind of pocket, okay, this is a good composition to run her with or against, and not, hey, first pick, we're going to go ahead and grab Maeve, see what you can do about it.
And also during the first set, Drogo's first pick.
Yeah.
He got banned even. Huge just wavering point. Didn't always win each game that he was involved in, but clearly a priority. Do you see the same thing happening in this set?
I expect him to be pretty high on the charts because, again, Fusillade, when you have someone, and every single player here essentially that can play Drogos is going to be able to hit these shots. So you know for a fact that bonus damage is going to get applied all the time. And I feel like that's where we started to see kind of like Genos come into the equation, because it's like, okay, well, now you're getting Fusillade bonus damage, Genos bonus damage. And if you can hit those shots consistently, you are going to demolish pretty much anyone that stands in your way.
I do. You want to be able to just demolish the competition after all. Are there any picks so far that we didn't get to see in the first set that you think might be really unique to NA's strategy?
I feel like NA lately has been pulling out Victor a little bit more, at least towards the end of the online split. I feel like we saw that there. And I'm wondering if that was because Splice pulled it out. They made it look phenomenal. And I'm wondering if either of these teams like have that kind of hidden where it's just like, this is something we can pull out if we want to. Maybe not first game, maybe not even if the map depends on it or the set depends on it. But just having it in their pocket just in case. You know, maybe even a couple days.
And with Fnatic's victory, a lot of it came down to versatility in draft, being able to pull out all these different strategies. And in NA, we've seen some things more in the fun-loving capacity at G2, for instance, so for supports, things like that, which were for the personal enjoyment aspect. But I think maybe keeping that mentality during the regular portion of the split, being able to just challenge yourself in other ways, even if it is kind of just a trivia-type feeling thing for yourself.
I would say I don't think we're going to see 4 supports unless they get to game, like we get to map number 4, and every map before that has been very fast, like 6-minute 4-0s for G2. And I do not expect this set to take that kind of path.
I don't think we'll see that strategy, but I think the fact that they've been playing around is just... That's the kind of thing I'm thinking of. The fact that, hey, let's go quad DPS here, quad support here, whatever the reasoning, whatever it may be, the fact is they do have versatile players, and even though those specific terms won't be taken to it, I am curious to see what other things that are actually applicable to the situation they might carry over.
And it does apply a different level of things than you would normally get. I mean, one thing I think that this team, and the same thing that goes for Envy as well, G2 and both of them, have been able to get a lot of trust in each other. And I feel like that's what some of those fun drafts can do, is just we get to feel like we just be comfortable with each other. And it's one of those things that you have really serious moments with people, and that can create a bonding effect, but just having fun with each other every now and then is going to be able to kind of create that bond between you, and having like that friendship when it comes into a LAN scenario where things are on the line and it gets serious, you know that you can trust the other person to make the right decision.
Well, and the last time around during the spring LAN, you could see some of that roster tension coming through some of the teams, and not just on their faces, but in their gameplay. When you know things are going to be changing and you know things aren't working out with the current players that you have, it's really difficult to keep yourself in that. But you're seeing right now just a lot of fun being had by these teams when you don't have that internal struggle within your roster, you can focus more on the gameplay.
And that's one of those things, specifically when it comes down to like out of game, I expect a lot of these guys to be smiling, laughing, having fun with each other. But it's one of those things in game when you see them smiling and laughing, that's when you start to think, okay, something's going on. Either something's going really well for them. Fnatic notably are the ones that you're like the most scared of when they're having fun in the game, because you recognize, or not having fun, but laughing about it, because you recognize that they are completely relaxed. They are not stressed out. They're not worrying about any of these split-second decisions they have to make. They are comfortable.
So, Serpent Beach, that's our first map for this one. Lots of verticality, and some of those picks that we saw during the first set, we might see carry over here. And we are in NA, everybody. These are all best of 7s, 3 sets for the day. Fnatic have earned their spot within the finals with the 4-1 victory. And now it's time to find out who the NA representatives in those grand finals will be.
I'm most curious to see if Willow is going to be showing up as much in for the North American set as we saw in Europe. Because I think she was in every single game either banned or picked for EU. And that is one thing that I think really is kind of Fnatic kind of commanding that. The way they've been able to play it, the way they've brought it in specifically has made her that much of a threat. But I think these other teams have picked up to kind of where she fits.
Already off the bat, very different with these bans. Pip and Bomb King taken away by G2.
And I feel like that is just specifically targeting the comfort that Envy have in their blaster play. If you can grab Drogoz up first, which honestly he's been, like we said earlier, highly contested, you really force them into that, well, do you want to play Willow? Do you want to play Eevee? Like, who do you want to go? Because we've taken the second best blaster, or we've banned the second best blaster, grabbed the best blaster, and left you with the scraps.
So Drogoz, #1 pick once again. Do you think this has been a smart strategy for the teams bringing him up, or do you think he's being a little overrated?
It's one of those areas where, again, you're hitting your shots consistently, you have all this bonus damage. As long as the other team not only either doesn't counter-pick you, or if their counter-pick just doesn't play the way you want it to. I mean, earlier we saw Androxus come out and it did not hit the way that you wanted Androxus to be hitting. It did not have that effect. And I think that's really the second play, right? Where it's like, okay, if our Drogoz play is good enough that no matter what you grab, we can run it, we're comfortable.
There was a game where Nando didn't even get picked up or banned last time, and this time early for Envy, picking that up most likely for Rubu.
When I think of Fernando, I think of two players, and both of them are in this set. I think of Cuss and I think of Rubu. It's just one of those things that I feel like they both embody him very well. They both know how to play him very well. And it's one of those things, every other frontline I think has that same kind of Fernando, but these two have really brought it and kind of signaturized it to themselves. And I think being able to have that, and on this map, the damage output he can have is really going to assist, like in Leon, being able to confirm a lot of these kills.
Khan and Anara, the next pickups for G2. So revealing they will have a double frontline composition. And who do you think is going to be on the Khan? Is it going to be Cuss?
It's a good question. I'm going to say Cuss. I think Cuss is like in that exact kind of playstyle that you want from a Khan, just because, again, a little bit more aggressive. You can get a lot of damage out, so you know when to make those calls, and I feel like Cuss is the perfect player to have in that position of your intuition is going to make, do you get aggressive, do you fall back? You have that heal, so you have that mentality, someone who's played support for so long that he knows where to be, who he needs to focus on.
And it's Furia making another appearance here in the PPL, as well as Willow. Interesting, interesting. So having that blaster potential on the side of Envy.
So Furia, every single time I think I've seen her in the draft today, she has pretty much come in #3 for whatever team she's on. But the thing about Willow, especially for this composition, is you know they're going another support. They already have the heal coming in from Khan. You have anti-heal built into your kit. You can capitalize on that and try to shut G2 down where it would hurt the most. That healing coming down from Fury and then the anti-heal coming down from Willow make it a lot more difficult for G2 to find success.
All right, well, Barrick, last lock-in for Envy. Which roster are you liking more?
Honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards Envy. I think that what they have, as long as they play it well, will work perfectly, but you have to be wary of the Drogoz, wary of the Androxus.
Listen, you have to, if you're on the Androxus, you can't let what happened before where it wasn't all on Mutu, but if you can't get a grasp on the enemy team, then it's going to be very difficult for you to keep controlling that. But let's go ahead. It's game #1, the NA match of the day, best of 7. Let's hop to it.
Shifted Pretty here with you, and we've got an interesting debacle. Both Furia and Drogoz are undefeated so far, obviously on different teams here. Someone's going to have to lose.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting to watch her play out. Definitely not as highly prioritized as I thought she'd be.
Same.
Hasn't been banned yet, to my knowledge, if I'm recalling correctly, and hasn't even gone top 3, I don't think, for the most part. It's like, well, I mean, I understand. The more I thought about it, I'm like, healing is, one of the most counterable things, I guess, out there nowadays, especially with the way Willow's being prioritized and looked at in this set. It's really, really crazy to see. These two compositions, though, for my money, they kind of look the same. They both have that blaster. They both have that hit scan threat. They both have the aggro tank and the more passive tank. It's just going to be who beats who.
Yeah, and I think when you look at eye drop bodies in the Androxus, it's going to look different from when Mudu played him on this map simply because he doesn't have to worry about 2 targets, has to worry about 1. Random Noob, although really far out, and to start things off looking for that early aggression, will get taken down very quickly from Doseups, and eye drop bodies now has a lot of freedom to move on through and try to find some backline, but you can see just that tactical retreat from Envy off the bat. It's already up to 30+% for G2, and a lot of zoning already occurring for the team in blue.
I think with the shift from Cuscutie onto the front line, what we saw Fnatic do to Na'Vi on Frog Isle is what G2 have been doing to North America. They will just come at you full force and just frag you out. So aggressive, and if they continue to play their way, I don't see them having a lot of struggles today.
17 HP escape from eye drop bodies getting into the backline and on the high ground. 2 very dangerous spots to be in. He's got a low target in front. Tolkien falls with help coming out of Evil Eye, and eye drop bodies again trying to be slippery, but he does the job. Even though he falls, he delays long enough. The front line able to hold on for G2. They go up 1-0. Rock Monkey will clean up 2 immediately after, but regardless, the scoreboard is what matters, and that 1-0 lead is what G2 wanted.
Do they capitalize the R in Rock Monkey? I think that's definitely the topic of conversation right now.
Needs to be.
It looks so weird to me in the kill feed. It like stood out. Sorry, I'm going ADD on this moment. Here's Random Noob on the high ground again, under threat, under duress. Throwing hands, but he's off the mark. Tolkien finds 2.
It's Briggs, again, you talked about it in the last set with the Na'Vi Fnatic matchup, but again, Barrick has a lot of damage potential if gone unchecked. As you can see, he's able to pick up the 2. Random Noob able to help Rock Monkey again with that capital R. You're not wrong. That does look a little strange.
Doesn't it look weird? It looks weird.
It's going to ruin my whole day now. I'm going to be looking at that the rest of the day.
My bad. My bad. I didn't mean to. Misery loves company,
True.
I guess. Here comes the Immortal as well, trying to bail Rock Monkey out. Capital R, he's going to make it all the way out this time around. Doseups will take down Tolkien for his troubles.
Oh, the Inflame just used, though, and Mr. Hayes not able to get away from Evil Eye as he's able to spell that one out. Looking for a second, but nice Grace able to use to dodge away from that last Fusillade rocket that could have done the trick. Salvo will get some chip damage up in the high ground and keep Random Noob just a little bit at bay, while Inara also moves up high. Now finally coming out is the Fae Flight. Can there be any response? The Dragon Punch coming out. Was that another Immortal popped as well? No, not quite yet. It looked like he was in his little stance.
It did look like, I saw the VFX on the edge of the screen there. Evil Eye will take down 2 before he falls, trading out blow for blow here. But unfortunately for the Envy fans out there, G2 comes out on top of that trade and will continue to march this payload forward with 44 seconds on the clock.
It was interesting priority because the Fae Flight was in. We saw the triple dash come out of eye drop bodies on the Androxus, but he was not going for the Fairy. He wanted to make sure the high ground was established. He was able to find some damage on the Rock Monkey and Mr. Hayes, which forced them away from Tolkien. And now Doseups on the opposite side through time and space, able to help out as eye drop bodies takes down Random Noob. So once again, the Willow not having much success. A little bit of delay tactics here from Tolkien, but there's a Warder's Field right behind him, and now he's the focus point. The little impasse wall will be able to help him out just a little bit as far as staying away from the damage. Can Fernando get there in time? Tolkien somehow still alive. He does finally drop, but eye drop bodies and the rest of the gang also very low, but they're still finding kills.
See, this is where Genos is not that great. He's not going to be able to burst anyone back up to full HP. It's a slow burn, and the heal over time is not enough. Envy are getting the better end of these kills. These health bars were low, stayed low, and remained that way as Envy find a couple of kills there. Will hold the defense, but not without great cost to their ultimate economy.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the really big thing when it comes to point contestation specifically is that those ultimates are going to be very, very impactful for G2. But on the flip side of things, if you do find yourself using a huge ultimate from Envy, because they have a lot of that team effect ultimate base in their roster lineup at the moment, if they somehow find themselves in the bad end of an ultimate, it could really sway things the wrong direction for the second round. Regardless, we're going in 1-1, and you can see the damage dealt chart so far. This Leon pick I really enjoy a lot, especially as early as they took it. It topped the charts, exactly what we want to see as far as trying to counter out Evil Eye's Drogos.
And Fernando definitely up there in contest as well. Rubu, we know he loves the pick. But we have to see the response from Team Envy now in the first round. G2 absolutely rolled over them and took control of their high ground. And when that happened to Na'Vi, they did a much better job at absorbing it, but it doesn't look like G2 is ready to throw that haymaker just yet.
Looking for an opportunity to catch somebody off guard, and it looks like Rubu might actually be stuck in this back corner, and Immortal is forced to be used, so where do you rotate if you're G2? Do you push back in on this? It looks like the answer to that question will possibly be yes, but a nice heal coming out into Rubu will force out the Dragon Punch, will be an instant delete. Combustible, or pardon me, the Fire Spit right afterwards, not able to keep him alive, and Random Noob will take that advantage in numbers and turn it into a Fey Flight up top, but look how much focus is coming out, taking a lot of damage, but again, the Kindle Soul is coming through and finding some extra healing for Random Noob, who will stay alive and potentially find Vex here. It'd be a big pick.
Goodness gracious, the hang time here from this is going to be enough to stagger out Vex. Envy back in control here. When G2 dragged their feet, Envy started to look a lot better. I got to say, after that Dragon Punch, Evil Eye, he kind of shifts to the right. It feels like unnecessarily there. I don't think he needed to die there.
I don't think so either. He wanted to find some extra damage, didn't get the help or peel as he was trying to push a little bit forward. Could have just backed up to stay alive. Regardless, we're seeing Envy control the point now. Random Noob is coming to life on this Willow late, and you can see the tracking from Rock Monkey, able to take down Evil Eye from the skies, forcing him into an enclosed area, which is the last place that Drogos wants to be. And Random Noob will find exactly where that is and deal some more poke and say, you're never going to be out here for free, as he didn't have Flutter up there. No. He almost fell and took a splash.
He's trying to air control that one out. Rock in a rough position there, but Random actually almost saved his life there. Not quite enough peel, but the Cherish healing coming through from Fury at the moment. This is burst heal in its finest form.
Absolutely is. 50+%. Healing numbers now starting to even up. It was the Genos show for a while, but very quickly you see Mr. Hayes able to stay alive. A 10 streak. His numbers go up exponentially as he stays alive. Obviously, 1 minute and 47 seconds. The payload is crossing just beyond the halfway point as it tries to get through this bridge, but iDrop Bodies is trying to open up some space for the defense, but he's got Ruba right in his face, but comes back through with the help. That's a big committal, but Mr. Hayes able to find one last shot. Was that a Pyre Strike?
That was a Pyre Strike from way downtown, from the low ground. Doesn't even matter. G2, they're going to get what they came for. They hold this defense. They're continuing to frag out. And that initial point fight, it's a good sign for Envy because now they're getting victories from essentially everywhere in the composition. It wasn't all up to Rock Monkey there. I think Random Noob pulled so much weight with his Fey Flight. He finally found his window of opportunity and says, hey, look, I am here. I am going to have an impact on this game when you give me the chance.
Do have an Inflame and an Immortal available for Envy as well as the Fey Flight, and it will be Fey Flight and Inflame being used in tandem with one another. Damage needs to be found here. iDrop Body's taking a lot of it. Dragon Punch up in the midair, taking away the air supremacy, but he will be countered back. Rock Monkey able to find the response with the Enlightenment midair. Very well played, and now Mr. Hayes still staying alive, trying to keep their front line just as healthy as possible, and Tolkien and Ruber are happy to sit on the payload still. They still have this battle in the trenches won.
Yeah, it's this awkward moment now where you're up in your high castle. Cusscutie and Dosups have to start dropping down to contest this payload. It's starting to roll past and out of their control. The Dome Shield is spent to try and break the corner, but they're not. They're getting contested from up high, it seems.
Yeah, there's a Drogos up there and a seismic crash from up high after using the impasse to get up on that elevated stance. Doesn't really find too much. Tolkien will eventually fall. Vex 30 again. You can see how much he is struggling to keep his teammates alive. He's got Drogos just hopping in a corner trying to wait for that little bit of a celestial touch. And not able to find enough. Yeah, through time and space, we'll go right through the middle. And again, that full heal from Furia coming out, keeping the front line up.
Sitting there in the dead zone as well. The Enlightenment's good, but the Accursed Arm is better. Bodies finds one from distance and an important one at that, but the Envious Train is continuing to roll.
It's just so much damage being funneled in while Androxus was up in midair. Random Noob just put himself in a nice tight corner and put all that damage down on the point. Nobody could stay up. The Nightshade was too good. The damage was too good. Even the Seedlings got involved there for some extra damage. And you can see when Random Noob has the ability to stay up high and make these open moves, he's going to take down targets every single time as he's able to find himself 2 in there. It's just incredible to see how effective Willow can be when given space.
Yeah. I want to see just the change back, though, for G2. It didn't feel like, granted, they're on the defense, so it's only so much you can do with this, but getting aggressive, controlling the pace of these fights, dictating where, how, and when they're going to happen is what worked out so well for them. And it's very hard. It's a very hard thing to adapt to when you have 5 people coming at you full force on your high ground. You don't really have a lot of time to communicate or throw together a defensive plan because it's already being put in place.
And I think if you're G2 here, you do have the combat boost because you are down to 2 points. do you just push forward? I mean, you can see, look at Doseps already so chewed up, and even the midair shot on die drop bodies forces him away. So all those dashes are done. The overpowered comes out for Cuss, not able to find a kill with it. The Immortal in response, shield on shield action. Cuss Kitty will take the commander's grab, but he's burning very quickly, quite literally, and Rubu will win that one up and look for more as again the Inflame comes out just before Furia dies, enabling Random Noob to find big damage. He's able to find one. Doseps also low, might be the second. Getting really close to the end as well, and they will find him. Tolkien staying alive somehow with a sliver of HP. It's 81+%, and this looks like Envy might just roll this through.
How can you ask for a better team fight there, Shift? It's not over just yet, but G2 are scrambling. Cuss Cutie running out of HP. Evil Eye's able to find one with his Dragon Punch, but it's quickly answered back. Will it be enough here? The boys in blue starting to look shaken.
Oh, I drop Body's looking to get aggressive on Tolkien, but he's able to stay alive for just long enough. Random Noob's got Vex in a dangerous spot, will take him down, and then Fluttering on top, but has to reload. Evil Eye will take down the Fairy before the wand can get reseated, but it's still Mr. Hayes still back here with us, and Fernando's trying to do what he can to keep everyone off, but Cuss wants to get on top with the commander's grab, will do so rather successfully for a marginal amount of time, but now it's just that old-fashioned conga line in, and that might just do it. It will. A 4-1 victory in game one for Team Envy, looking solid after that first point.
I mean, really just getting no value from their initiation there was what happened to G2. You saw a pretty late overpower come out, and there wasn't even any follow-up there. Mr. Hayes, he ate most of it, and now you can see Rubu giving the round of applause there as he was kind of the MVP of that last fight. He pops a late Immortal that not only bails out Mr. Hayes, but keeps himself in a decent spot long enough for then the Inflame to come out from Furia, get that team fight reinvigorated for Team Envy as they get the counter initiation, and then Random Noob just takes the reins from there and says, thanks, boys.
Yeah. I think that, you know, there was a staggering start to that game for Envy. They did not know how to react to that full pressure. They came back later and said, let them come over to us. We'll just put on all the chip damage. It was good. And again, we're seeing Androxus, he is such a small window to convert kills. And if you don't find him, it really feels like he falls flat, which is what G2 does in game number one. What do you guys think of the desk?
Well, it looked great for them in the first point. Pretty early domination on the objective. But then from then on out, Envy found some holes to poke.
There was just a lot of pressure coming down from Envy, and they learned where they needed to position. That was, I think, one of the big things that would kind of play against them was how do we deal with what they have? They have the Drogoz Androxus. How do we get ourselves in a good spot so that they can't really kill off the Willow, but Willow can still have full effect?
Yeah, and Willow was great in that game. Also, they mentioned Rubu and the way that he had that Nando play in the very end, but throughout the game just had a really heavy impact from that frontline perspective.
And the two things that stood out to me, one of the two things that stood out to me at the very end of that when we go to the player games is that Rubu is up out of his seat. And it was just, again, you look at Fernando there, two players whose name come to my mind, and Rubu is probably the first one. He just embodies Fernando for me. He plays it so well, and it just fits.
And it was great. We could hear them cheer after they finished that game, and then you saw on your camera Rubu out of his seat, looking through the windows at the enemy team and just giving them that clap that can just be so demoralizing.
One of the big things I think there for G2, though, was at the very end of it, one of the things I think we always talk about, especially after a loss like that, is you see the team kind of go down. And I think you could see a couple of them like, oh, we didn't expect to actually like lose that first map, but Cuss was still talking, and I think that's the big thing. As long as one person still has those open comms going through, this is what we need to pay attention to, this is what went wrong, this is how we fix it, you relax a little bit. You're like, all right, just one game, chug it off, get back into the next one.
And a best of 7 gives you much more cushion in that aspect. You can lose one and you're not on the back foot just yet. But I think G2 also recognizing some of the mistakes from the last time they were at LAN and then letting things get to them a bit earlier this time around, have a bit more even-keel perspective on it. Though, when you come in as top seed and you just get rocked by the second.
Yeah, it's not exactly, I want to say, the best position that you want to find yourself in. But, I mean, you have to also take in the fact that Envy, of all the last few teams that have been able to take down Fnatic, are one of them. They are really the ones that I think are the most difficult to fight once they do get on land because they're very comfortable with it. They're comfortable with each other as a team. And once they lock in, they are zoned in. These are players that can be incredibly deadly once they find that. So you really have to work on making them uncomfortable. You have to get them off of these comfort picks and push them into something where maybe they're just not going to aim as well. They're not going to play as well. Like something to try and just just shake them up.
It's a very difficult set to predict in who's going to win it, especially when you witness game number 1. And then going into game number 2 when you got to see that things like the Willow were working for Random Noob, and we hadn't really seen much of this type of play from Envy.
And all of it comes down, like, there's like 2 cards essentially that make Willow really good, and it's Just Believe and Twilight. It's the 2 cards that as long as you are doing well on Willow, you're getting eliminations, everything's going to just keep rolling. It snowballs you. You have some cooldown, you have the cooldown on eliminations as well, so every single one of your abilities, your anti-heal and your seedling, come up a lot more often. That's just a ton of burst damage that you have to deal with.
Now it's time for Frog Isle. Game number 2, G2's opportunity to try to tie up this set, but Envy, I'm sure they're not going to let them take anything away easily.
There's a lot I want to say that could go right and wrong here, and again, my question goes down to where does Furia fall? Because now, out of the 2 people who had the 100% win rate for today, Furia is the only one maintaining that. Does that make you prioritize her a little bit more, or do you risk letting G2 take her away?
Well, in the last game, a lot of it, as the casters had mentioned, when it came down to those nitty-gritty fights where everything is happening so fast-paced and the Genos can't keep up with that healing necessarily in the way that Furia can, especially depending what talent you end up coupling her with, it can be the thing that you need on the faster maps. But here, Envy take both of their ban slots for the snipers.
Both front lines, Khan, Makoa, probably the top 2. I think Inara falls right after that, so Envy are going to go immediately for Drogoz. And again, I agree with this, but it feels like... I feel like kind of what Nick had said about Cassie can kind of apply here. I think Drogoz is much better overall in any composition than you'll see out of Cassie, but I think he has just enough that counters him that you have to be very careful as to where you pick him up. I mean, immediately you get Furia, who's already going to be 1 hit scan presence. If you add a little bit more to that, then it gets a lot easier to kill him out of the air.
And making her way up a little bit in the draft, Furia. She is more towards the middle part. Yeah, well, a little here and there, making her way all the way to the top. But still, the Fernando and Furia combination that we saw previously, super aggressive, very comfortable on those picks from what we've seen so far from Mr. Hayes on Furia. As comfortable as you can be with the new champion, it's always going to take some time before you really feel it. That's what, it's a really cool time when you get to see what approach is taken by each of these players with it.
As of now, I'd say this is probably like the press F to pay respects composition, right? You have the 100% win rate healer, an incredible front line that can come through and cause a lot of trouble on the other side. And then you do get Leon, you get Barrick, again, a lot of control, and I think some good shots. I think Leon is in this area of you can buy Wrecker, which helps deal with the shield from Furia. You have your 90% anti-heal already in kit, so you can do a little bit more against her, but it's still going to be difficult.
So how do you think with G2, you were talking about how Rubu was a good Nando player, and then here you got Cuss Cutie, who probably is piloting that one.
I like it.
Yeah,
I love seeing Cuss on Fernando. I like again, there's a few players that come to mind when I think of him, and both of them are in that echelon of just really, really good Fernandos. You have to be able to deal with them, or else they will be the ones making plays for the team.
And then a little bit of lock-in here. Maldamba going the way of Envy. So they have Barrick right now, and then Drogoz and Leon securing those picks potentially for Random Noob and Rock Monkey early, depending on how things shake out. But it may be double front line, and it is.
I'm kind of curious as to which one Tulki and which one Rubu are going to be playing, because Tulki, the last time on Frog Isle that we got to see him online, it was one of those things that he did incredible amounts of damage with Terminus. That was when Rubu was able to get a bunch of kills alone as Ashe. So being able to kind of couple that, bringing that through, either way, I think both players are going to be capable with it, but that's something to be aware of, is that he's going to be looking kind of for that shotgun decimation blast-esque style play.
Buck, last one over here for G2. So with these drafts nice and completed, whose are you liking more?
I have to give it a little bit more towards G2. I think Fernando and Furia are very highly contested. You add Inara into that and Buck into that, and it becomes incredibly difficult to kill off the one that you really are trying to target.
Well, I'm ready to see if G2 can go ahead and tie up this set. So casters, take it away.
I think we're just about as ready as well. I'm interested. I thought for a second that we might not see any flanks. I was almost expecting G2 to go with more of a Bomb King for that zone pressure to help out on point, but it's the Buck. Do you think he's going to have the enable with the Furia to be as effective as we've seen him with the Genos?
Probably, right? It's not in the same way, though. It comes in the burst damage, all that mitigation. Now, Maybe Evil Eye adjusts his loadout a little bit because Buck doesn't really struggle in terms of the mitigation. For me, it's really in that damage. I think he complements better with Genos personally. I think the extra little bit of damage just to throw his time to kill a little bit closer to where he wants to be is what you want to go for. However, last memory I have of G2 on Frog, I was with both Inara and Fernando just completely controlling this game, and it didn't matter what the hell the backline looked like because it was so easy. There wasn't any pressure coming back from them. Granted, I don't believe that was against Team Envious, but G2 have shown great dominance on this map with this front line.
I think for me it comes down to, will we see Random Noob pop off on this Drogos? I think he's going to be the big impact player as far as keeping those frontliners a little bit more at bay, which it can be a difficult task to do because of how considerable the health pools are, the shielding is, and of course the healing on the back end from Furia. Take a look to see if it can be a realization for the side of Envy as they start to move towards the right-hand side. You can see how Barrick has already set himself up near that danger ledge. Kuski taking a lot of damage, but again, the Kindle is just so good coming through, and now even a Pyre Strike just to help keep some zoning and keep everyone a little bit more closer to being alive, and Tolki's the one who now falls low.
Now it's map control for G2. They're starting to pull Barrick lower and lower as well. Random Noob hasn't been able to put his eyes on the point. He's had Kuski in his face this whole time. One more shot would have been good on a Rock Monkey, but he escapes for now.
It's just that burst potential. This left click and then an impulse splash shot coming out can just chew people apart. And it will be Tolkien taken down as first blood, stalling it at 33% for Envy, now above 45 for G2. And Evil Eye looks like he wants to get up on the ledge, but will instead use the leap to move right on back. And he's got himself a little bit of a battle with Rubu, who is decidingly winning that fight, and he will be taken down. Rock Monkey finally the last shot.
They push him right back in a line of sight of Rock, and he does the rest. Quick heal on bodies. It's going to tie up on the objective, though. 51% for G2, 63 and climbing now for Envy, but Doe's back. He's contesting here. Rock's trying to hold this angle, but again, the poke from this Cassie has been putting a lot of pressure on Leon.
I like the separation, though. The Drogos on one side, the Leon on the other. It keeps Cassie kind of changing the focus, leaping away, and Random Noob, seeing that leap, will just back right on up, wants to continue to keep his life in effect, which is huge when it comes to, again, winning that front line, which Tolki is currently losing, and he's getting pushed on right now. He will be blown up by eye drop bodies. Cutie now looking for Rock Monkey in the back line with that inflame boost in hand, well as you can see Evil Eye coming through, and Lightman will actually find one, plus a second. Random Noob able to convert, but it just does not make a difference as the frontliners were down, and it will be G2 taking the first point.
That's scary to see coming at you, the big flaming wings on every one of your enemies. It certainly, if nothing else, says don't fight into this right now. This is probably not a good idea. Rock does his best, though, with the Enlightenment, gets a kill and a half, so to speak. Cleans up his second, but then falls futilely as the struggle from G2. Simply too much map control early on there, nets them the capture point, won the second victory.
And Eye Drop Bodies is actually having an incredible performance so far on the Cassie. You see the damage numbers. He's staying within the reach of Drogos, which is huge. Dread Serpent coming out. There's also a Dome Shield popped for the side of Team Envy, but not a lot found in the back end of it as an Immortal comes out on the backside. Now Vex has got one low, able to take down Random Noob. There's another one low as Tolki needs to find a way to stay alive if at all possible. Looks like he will be able to do so just narrowly. So G2 will have to back up after that little bit of a stalemate push.
Oh man, that's a juicy heal. Gets out of combat as well. Cutie right back in the fray here, looking for a target. Whoever he wants, he's going to get. Rubu goes down. The great angle continues here as Cutie now sets his sights on the back line.
And he is playing this exactly right. You saw that right-hand push from the defensive Team Envy trying to move down the ledge, and Cuss just says, I'll take the opposite flank and get some confirmed damage easily found. And now it's up to Random Noob to find some big hits, which he does, actually. So now Tolki coming back in, trying to find a way to get himself that frontline pressure, and he's going to get some space granted from Random Noob, who's looking for a juicy target. It'll be Cutie, so it will be a trade away, but still, the frontliner going down will allow Terminus and the Barrack to move on forward and keep this defense in line.
Hits the Power Strike as well, but still goes down all the same. The Shatterfall won't connect. Body's just able to skirt out of that one. 46 on the clock. G2 lead 1-0. Ultimate economy looking pretty scarce for both sides here. The Dread Serpent working its way back up to full. Envy are in that spot where they really don't want to have to spend that reanimate if they can help it here. But also, it sucks to go down 2-0 early like this.
It absolutely would, especially at Frog Isle, where usually the itemization pays huge dividends in the early game specifically. G2 on the opposite hand will lose Evil Eye, even though they do have a seismic crash. And there it comes, channeled up. Will it find much? It actually goes into the high ground and keeps both the damage dealer of Random Noob and the healing at bay for a small amount of time, allowing Tolkien to fall. No reanimate used, but Rock Monkey comes back through with the capital R, able to find it. No, yeah, it did come back through. So able to contest continually, and that will be enough to get the kills. That's, as you mentioned it, that would be a big use, and so far,
especially when it's not guaranteeing anything for you here. Evileye comes back in. He ends up falling. It looks like Envious would be able to bring this one out, but it's not a surefire thing just yet.
No healer as Mr. Hayes does drop away, but Tolkien's able to slash his way through 2. That'll help keep the defense. But again, you mentioned that reanimate is so crucial, and to have to spend it just to make sure you don't go down 2, it hurts to do it, but I think at the end of the day, you'd make that choice 9 times out of 10 here on Frog Isle. At least I would.
Scary that it wasn't a decisive one there when they popped the enemy, but there is a silver lining there in that he is going to be able to get closer back to fully charged on that. I don't think we're going to be much over 50%. I think 50% would have been the ideal there. He was able to fight out a decent amount, but that's a slow charging ultimate.
Very
Not
slow.
because it's a slow just because it's a slow charging ultimate, but because Terminus's uptime in a fight, windows where he's actually doing damage are slim pickings, especially on a map like Frog Isle with such long lines of sight when he has to be so careful about when he's going to extend into a fight.
This is an interesting build for my drop body's taking the tumble, wants that crowd control reduction just in hand. 58% at level 4. You can see he's using that dodge roll just to kind of maneuver around away from those frontliners and keep that sustained poke out, which he's been doing a relatively good job throughout this entire match so far, but it's Envy who take control of the point first and foremost, 24% and counting, as Toki and Rubu kind of have themselves split, one on the point, one over on the right side of danger, and a dome shield will be placed over on the right-hand side. It's going to actually keep Cutie away, a nice impasse wall as well, trying to keep some separation, and it will force out an Immortal. Can they find any follow-up? The Inflamed has also come out, but it's Rock Monkey and Random Noob finding the 2 kills, and those are on damage dealers. Rubu finding one to the front line as well. Random Noob falls low, and Vex will take him down, but he's getting swarmed. The Wings of Wrath almost doing the trick, but not enough, as Envy's got 96%, the team fight, and now 2 points on the board as soon as his overtime fades away.
This G2 fight was just horrific. Vex, the only one able to pick up a kill there, and it just doesn't feel like they're playing their composition. Normally, we see such aggression coming out of G2. Normally, we see all this map control, and they're sitting on their laurels. Cuss and Evileye's even lower than Cuss on the damage charts. Cuss not far above him. It's just not what you want to be seeing there. He's scarcely above Vex.
Yeah, but look at this combustible damage coming out of Random. He gets 4 with that fire spit, immediately resetting it, coming back with more, and it's just continual damage. And that's the big thing, is it's Evileye has had to use his leap to get out of situations where he's going to get converted on more than he's been able to use it to get in and convert kills himself. So it's Team Envy taking the tempo of this game in hand and making G2 play their game rather than letting G2 get set up whatsoever.
I mean, it's easy for me to say, but I always like watching G2 either burn bright or completely fall apart in a blaze of glory. I like to see them go in and play their style. And same thing with Fnatic. I don't like watching Fnatic roll over and be defensive and slowly get grinded down to a 4-3 loss. I'd rather say, get 0 forward, but play your game.
Yeah. It's not been a good show for G2 yet, as this payload is steaming on forward to that 3rd point. Someone's going to have to contest. Look at Rubu up in the high ground.
Big body block, boy.
Grandpa Barrick says, not today, sir. Stay up here and enjoy the view as we push this one through. It is 3-1, but look at this Spitfire. Hits 4 and then immediately resets it, and it boops Fernando right off the map. It's just, if Paul gets going.
That'll play.
Yep.
That'll play. Barrick, the offensive lineman up the top there. I love that. Just completely body blocking out Fernando. Not an easy thing to do. And Envy, this is not something that they traditionally do at events. They always look great. And I said this in the interview, when they take an L, they go back to the drawing board, they watch the film, they figure it out, and then they look incredible. And then they take another L, and they work their way through the bracket like that. But this is a completely different Envy that is about to go up 2-0 over the undefeated G2 Esports. Envy were not able to take a game off, or I should say a set off of G2 Esports during the online portion of play.
And to be honest, the matchup between these two teams looked closer in the spring than it did this summer.
Agreed. I thought G2 obliterated everyone this split.
I thought the exact same thing, and now it's just Envy coming back with the fury and saying, not today, not on our watch. Tolki taking the stone-on-stone battle with Anara, which he's not quite winning as Maldava tries desperately to get him pulled up, and Mr. Hayes with a downtown. Dreadsom will find 3. Can they find the kills? Ruben will confirm 1. The Inflamed comes out in response, but what will it provide? Apparently enough damage for Dosups to take down Rock and It will be Tolkien also falling, but Random Noob wants to convert on one, and it will find bodies. So now the backline is open, and it's just up to Anar to hold on to point, and she gets pushed away.
Continuing to hold things down. Power Siphon is plenty healthy as well. Tolkien is going to be able to absorb a lot of punishment. Expand that out, throw it. 93%. G2 have got to make a move quick. Doseps is here. Doseps is healthy, but he's getting juggled around, and that's going to start the overtime for Envy.
And not looking good as Doseps also gets kind of staggered behind, and now he's at low HP. Needs to find a way to stay alive. Well, big heal coming out from the Fury. The seismic crash, but it's in right into the face of one player that was nearly dead. So was it full value? Was it enough? It looks like at the moment, yes, as Rubu does get chased down. Mr. Hayes also running with his tail between his legs, but gets behind a rock and will stay alive for a small time. But the capture boost is coming through for G2 as they continue to push forward and keep this zone in effect. And I don't know if there's going to be enough health pool for Team Envy to come back at this.
Just barely enough. No ultimates as well from Envy. Toki gets there. It's not to any avail. The capture will go through for G2. They've bought themselves another 2 minutes and 30 seconds to, at the very least, talk about a plan. Talk about, is there any way we can bring this one back? Because right now it's still looking pretty heavily in favor of Envy.
And with the way the game has been really showing itself so far, the tides have swung more in favor of Envy in a lot of these team fights than not, and G2 needs to find a way to respond. And again, we have the Inflamed up once again for Furia. Can that be the push that they need, that little damage boost they need to get through some of these really slippery frontliners so far, to be completely honest? Rubu and Tolki both have done a very good job of trading the baton back and forth. Mr. Hayes will start things off with another Dread Serpent, looking for the Fernando, but Evil Eye is here to put a couple of shotgun cartridges right into the face of Rubu, who is forced to use that bowling bull right away.
They got to find some way for Evil Eye to do something.
Yes.
He's sitting on the bottom of the damage charts. This is the interaction we've seen all game. It's Rubu and Random versus Cuss Cutie and Evil Eye here on the stairs, and Evil Eye and Cuss aren't able to get a ton of damage because they're so busy peeling bowling balls off of this barrack, I suppose. But they got to find maybe a different angle of attack here. If it doesn't work in the first 3 tries, G2 do have that element of surprise where they can just change something up and hopefully catch Envy off guard and off balance enough to take this game, because this is not a good look to go down 2 games.
No. And again, Spitfire after Spitfire continue to connect and continue to push people around. It's been so disruptive, and there hasn't been a response.
Yeah. How about the resurgence of Combustible, though?
Yeah, I love it.
It's come out of nowhere, and Mutu, of all people, to bring that one out. A guy that's used to be known for Drogoz, then had a real big dry spell as creatives, was just basically the all-around blaster for Na'Vi, and now everyone's adopted it. Random Noob in control of the damage charts here. Rubu just trying to outrace Rock Monkey because we know he loves to talk smack to his DPS players.
Doseps throws out a seismic crash on R and finds absolutely nothing. A presence actually hits very nicely for Rock Monkey through a couple of targets, which will chip them down. And now finally, Evil Eye trying to get the back line, but look at this pressure. Oh my goodness, Mr. Hayes coming back and helping out. Evil Eye will fall. That was the opportunity he needed. That's got to be frustrating to see. He had one target low, wasn't even able to finish it off. And that's been the story, I think, of Buck so far. It's been a nice attempt, but nothing really found.
No reanimate there. Is this Envy just wanting to give this one up? We're saying this payload is probably far enough away from conversion that we can get our feet back under us here. We're going to use a Dragon Punch to do it. Just coming out. This probably will cost Paulie his life as he's just barely able to call it off and get out.
Wow, that was really, really narrowly close. That fall, if Rock falls, or pardon me, Random falls there, I think that might be what G2 needs to hit the gas pedal and move on through to finish this off. Now Cuss Cutie in the backline, Dread Server being used. We'll find Stagger on the 2, but Buck stays alive and jumps back in as I Drop Bodies finds Mr. Hayes. Rubu wants to clean him up, but the dodge roll is almost good enough. He does get taken down, but will the reanimate happen here? It sure will, but are there enough numbers? An Impasse Wall will block 4 charges, and the Calamity Blast will throw some damage in, but who's going to be able to supplant Tolki on this point? Anar is going to give it a go, and he will eventually drop, and G2 may have just evened this back up.
Evil Eye, my goodness, does, sorry, but nothing all game long, and then just like a fury comes in and gets 3, 4, maybe even 5 kills in that engagement. Just barely being able to stay alive as he gets around the corner and cleans up Mr. Hayes was the critical factor to the downfall of Team Envy there.
A lot of conversation still happening through the glasses here.
Sure is. Rubu certainly
vocal today.
Certainly confident, certainly vocal, even after giving up a capture and a conversion here. All tied up 3-3. Big ultimate spent from Envious as well. The reanimate is down and will likely be down for the majority of this fight unless it's very dragged out.
It was the Dread Serpent used as well. The Dragon Punch came out, didn't really find anything, retains most of that percentage and builds it back up to 67. But still, look at those big old red crystals on the side of G2. 100% for just about everybody.
Man, they're
Seismic
stacked.
Crash is almost back.
They're ready to go. They didn't have to use anything for that. My goodness. G2, I feel like it's their fight to lose at this point. Plenty of ultimates to work with. Early map control as well, Shift.
Vampire Strike came out, the Inflamed with the Buck Wild combo, and now they're moving to the back line. Mr. Hayes low, he'll fall. Cuscutie pushing forward with Evil Eye. It's Rubu trying to stay alive to get back to the point, and he's actually doing a decent job. Evil Eye, you gotta win that fight. Are you kidding me? Luckily, Dosups is there, but the fact that you just lost Buck against the solo Berg 1v3, come on.
That's a big yikes from me. 78% though, it doesn't change the fact that G2 are in a really good spot. Random's coming soaring through the trees with this Dragon Punch, but he gets Fire Strike from Vex mid-flight, stunned, drops to the point in defeat.
He does get the touch off, which will allow the Barrack to get back. Tolki is here, but they're getting really staggered. There's no reanimate again. How big would it be if it was here? Tolki trying to stay alive. Will Shatterfall again as it was canceled by the Void Grip. Eye Drop Bodies is trying to get the damage dealt, and Vex will find the final blow, and G2 comes back down 0-3 to win that one out 4-3. My goodness.
Finally, we saw, and this was something I was going to hit on, especially if he didn't pop off towards the end there, but Evil Eye doing nothing through the first couple of rounds. Massive fight resulting in conversion. Another massive couple of kills there to get the early map control and the early win. I was about to say, like, G2 are still looking good. They're still hanging in there with Envy, with arguably their star DPS player doing
nothing.
Hot nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting to see. And even in the beginning of that, Dosups was opening up a stone farm there. It seemed like Anara was dropping way more often than she should have been, and considering what they were going up against. But again, that battle in the trenches is going to be one I think that will be the game inside of the game in this matchup, because Rubu and Tolki on Cuss and Dosups is going to be a very bloody battle.
That to me was just a fundamental breakdown from the ultimate economy side of things for Team Envy. I think you don't use anything there, and you can just let them roll it through for a 3-3. You give it your best, maybe try and force a couple of things out here, but the literal situation that you do not want to happen is what just happened, where you spend all your big heavy-hitting ultimates, get nothing, they still convert while spending nothing, and go into the next round with a massive advantage.
And G2 will punish that every time. We're 1-1. Gabby and Gore, take us to game 3.
It was looking pretty good for Envy this time around in the beginning, and G2 managed to turn it. How do you think they managed to do that?
I mean, a lot of it was towards the tail end when you saw Buck all of a sudden go from, like Nick had said, doing pretty much nothing. He had maybe got a couple of shots, some decent damage, but no, like, kill conversions, nothing really big play-wise, to all of a sudden, okay, here's a couple doubles, here's a couple triples, just excelling his team into the forefront. It was essentially like a 4.5 versus 5 until the very end, when it became like a 5.5, just from how well he was playing it.
Evil Eye is one of those players that is going to determine the success of the game, because you have to rely on his ability to pop off, especially here in the end. Double kill, combining his ultimate with Furious was really nice to see as well, and I think that's a combination that a lot are hoping to execute when they pick that up.
That was kind of scary to watch get executed the way it did, because it's like, all right, so now he's not only firing faster and has infinite ammo for a little bit, but now he's firing even faster, and it's just like he's going to melt 2 to 3 people minimum in that ult, given the right circumstance. And it was just the perfect position. Didn't end up getting the last shot, I think, onto Tolki that you had been hoping for, but still able to find a lot throughout all of that. And I think that was, again, the big difference maker towards the tail end of that game. Otherwise, Envy were looking incredible.
And that's the thing. Once it was kicked into gear for G2, they were in it. But Envy, and as they said over with the casters, when you're going into what was now the second to last round, the last portion, and you're using your ultimates and it didn't work out for you and your team has a bunch, then you're going into the next round with nothing in your favor. You have an uphill battle. But Stone Keep, it's fresh slate.
This is interesting to me, just because, again, now we've gotten through the first 2 maps. This is where Envy wants to go. This is where things are kind of getting driven. And these 2 teams, again, a lot of history that earlier this year was, we're going to go all the way every single time. Then it started just being the G2 show. Now that they've got kind of that leg up, I know Envy isn't known for like tilting or anything, but G2 have momentum, which is what they ride the most on.
But that being said, it was a grueling match for them during the 4-3 coming down to 1 point. Never feels that great because yes, you get the victory, and then on the one hand for Envy, it's we're so close to being up 2-0 within the set, and then on the other hand for G2, yeah, we tied up the set, but look how much we had to push just to be able to get that game.
Now again, Fury is going to be the talk of the town, at least for today. I can guarantee, because now she has won pretty much every game. Actually, every game. She has won every game. And so I'm curious, again, do you pull her in a little bit earlier? Do you try to first pick her, or do you let G2? Because they prioritized her for that second pick. They did not let Envy have it last time around. And I don't see them letting that happen again. Or I see G2 saying, cool, let's take it.
I guess that Willow was a little too much for G2 earlier, though, deciding to use it as their last ban.
This is a good map for her.
Yeah, it is. But she won't be around. Envy, take the buck first, so a switch up in the prioritization.
It makes sense to me, though, in the long run, because, again, one of the things that I think helped G2 at the end of it was being able to combine the buck with the Furia. Once you have Furia online, she's going to enable a ton of different champions. So she's probably the real key that made that work. But because of the way Buck went, and now that you know that he is absolutely warmed up on Buck, you have to be a little bit more wary about it just because of his own survivability, what he can accomplish. And with the way this map is laid out, there's a lot Buck can do just on his own. He doesn't even need, the healer. He doesn't need a front line. He can just go off on his side and tend to get a kill or two just by going in for the fight.
When you think about the flank plus Genos combination and the ability to amplify that damage, the difference is with Furia, the increase in the stats is it's an ultimate, right? You're not getting that consistently, but if you can sync it up as long as it's in the heat of battle, it can work out really well for you. But so far, no pickup of Furia just yet. It's going to be Fernando and Bomb King for G2.
And again, this is like the perfect spot for it. You get the combo with Buck as well, which, again, I'm looking at the ult combo, which is always going to be nice if you can line them up. That's probably not going to happen every single time you want it to, but you also get that little bit of shielding. Buck already has a huge burst heal for himself. Then you give him another burst heal plus a 500 shield on top of that. You keep him going just the same as a Nara. It's very hard to displace her when she has that kind of healing behind her.
Cassie, Barrick, locked in as well. It's going to be the Bomb King most likely for Evil Eye. Do you think that he's going to be able to pick it up a bit quicker this time?
I think that's going to be the big question mark, is how quickly does this come online? Is Bomb King going to have some stutter and then come online? Is he going to have some stutter, kind of like what we saw the Androxus from Mewtwo earlier, where it's just it never felt as though it came online? Or is it going to be coming out of the bat? I expect it to come out of the bat. Bomb King has been kind of not necessarily avoided today, but Drogoz has definitely been the kind of the showrunner. And so I feel like Bomb King's fitting in that area where people aren't quite as prepared to deal with him.
A little bit of ban action earlier, and Drogoz has been more of the priority. As you can see, Drogoz was the first ban this time. Pip makes his way through the draft and is the 4th selection for Envy alongside Leon.
And I like this. Leon, specifically just because if you're looking at G2 and you're like, well, if they want to go triple DPS here, I mean, they need a support. If they wanted someone, Pip is going to be good on this map. Leon is definitely good at helping shut down Furia, having both of those on their side. Again, more healing and helping shut down whatever G2 goes for, which at this point, Maldamba, Saris, Genos, both, are all three available. And it's kind of just pick the litter. I think Genos or Maldamba probably going to take more priority over that.
And it looks like it's going to be the Maldamba, just being able to supply that area healing going against the team of Envy. Whose draft do you feel in the most?
Honestly, I'm giving it to Envy. I think their combo is just really solid, and I don't know if G2 have enough to deal with them.
Furia is liking the victories today, so I want to know if she keeps that up. Let's go.
Hard to say she might not with that lineup from Envy. It looks really good. Again, when we talk about Pip, yes, he's a support. And yeah, his healing numbers are never all that great, but it's really good effective burst healing. So that, whatever, 42k he might have by the end, which is marginal, is usually really, really big in keeping the team alive.
Yeah, it's impactful. It's going to make up for, what traditionally would have been a lack of burst healing for Genos, but having both the Furia and the Pip where this is going to be most effective is just being where she can't, because Furia does need that line of sight. She can't get everywhere like Genos can. So hopefully the Pip can be able to make up for those. And of course, the Evil Mojos have to be big. Random Noob has to be on point with his shots and contribute what he lacks in healing and damage.
The other thing that I enjoy from Envy's comp, I think, is just their ability to go from low to high very quickly, having things like Pip that can get there. But also on top of that, who from G2 is going to contest the mobility out of Pip? It's going to have to be Bomb King, you would think, or just godlike tracking from iDrop Bodies and the Cassie. I just expect a lot of freedom for Pip coming into this, but we'll see what happens, because Bomb King can be very devastating as well with that Royal Subjects that looked like coming through. Was that chain reaction? There it is, chain reaction, there it is.
Wow, so we'll be able to see that. And, you know, Evil Eye, one of the best Bomb Kings to ever do it, in my opinion. You put Cuss Cutie, who is quickly becoming one of the best Fernandos to ever do it. That combination of Bomb King and Fernando running around as a little 1-2 punch is so devastating, and here they are, first and foremost into the fight, but no frags falling just yet.
But Evil Eye has this high ground. It's just, chaining them together onto Rubu, who actually soaks up a lot of that
certainly
damage.
didn't do as much as I thought it was going to.
I think the Mother's Grace came out there in the nick of time, and it actually is Rock Monkey who jumps right on the face of Barrick. And Random Noob, how did he get back here? He followed up with Rock Monkey, so the R brothers are coming through again, and they've got all the last 3 players from G2 completely trapped in this Vine area, which is not at all where they want to be, but they're just happy to soak up capture point at this point as Team Envy as they get it to above 60%. And again, they know where 3 players are, and they're rotating back to deal with it.
It's just the mobility. I think they get around, play the angles against G2, and G2 never get anything done with Bomb King and Fernando. They had the opportunity to, certainly, but unable to find any traction here. Vex the first to fall, and that's never the way you want to see the cookie crumble. The support is so key to these fights being able to last, and G2 does not have the legs to stand without Vex.
It looked like G2 was still reeling, just being trapped for as long as they were in that IV area and trying to come back through when the rest of the team spawned. They had a hard time rotating, and the rotation just got called out by Envy, and they absolutely punished right in front of that tapestry in the church area. It will result in a 1-0 lead so far for Envy as they get that capture percentage rather easily. And now they're looking to get over to this right side high ground onto these base ramparts of G2. Random Noob is already putting down some pressure, but ideally they would love to see Inara get up here too.
He's just trying to tiptoe his way, trying to stay on the high ground. Doesn't want to give it up entirely here. Questionable little waitlist back up and down. Doesn't matter, though. Trapped in the corner. Both front lines for G2 easily dealt with.
And now you get aggressive if you're Random Noob and the rest of the gang. Nice little burst heal there. Once again, Mr. Hayes able to follow up. Oz playing the Furia onto iDrop Bodies. If they can find this last stagger kill, it'd be huge. But Evil Eye is up top by himself. Tolkien wants to get the left-hand side of the base under control, and it looks like he will get a little bit of poke and then back right on up as Dosubs is looking to get himself established, but the shop is not being set up too easily. And it will be one falling. The Inflame coming out in combination. Evil Mojo! Random Noob not able to find the second. He's got himself a battle with Evil Eye. It'll be negated and just kind of stalled out for the meantime as Rubu gets back on the payload. It is narrowly there with 1:16 left. Someone has to contest, and they're going to find themselves right in the face of a seismic crash, and Dosubs goes down.
There it is. Cuss Cutie's there to take up the reins, though. 86% and climbing on the Immortal. He needs to get this one charged up. But Alan, I just don't see this one brought back as 4 in a row and ended up being a 5-0. Envy just completely dominate that last fight.
Where has this Envy been throughout the online play? This looks like this looks like Envy from Vegas, flat out. They're coming out and just throwing hands, and everything is connecting right now. And they're, again, playing their tempo of game. G2 has looked like they've been on their heels throughout all of these first couple of games. Even the one that they won, they barely narrowed that one out.
You know, it's always an interesting conversation for me when one team is just smashing another. That's not necessarily one that you're used to seeing. Is it a good day for Envy or just an off day for G2? Because I haven't seen any plays from G2 to kind of counter what you were saying. I haven't seen anything that G2 have done that have really looked like G2 of the online split.
Yeah, especially in the damage department.
Where's the aggression?
Yeah.
Just the blind hatred for your enemy that forces them into the backline and just completely dominates the map.
Oh my goodness, Evil Eye already fulling low while he was channeling it up. A good angle from Random Noob, and Ruben will take down Evil Eye before that King Bomb can be opened up for any sort of a hug. And now again, you can see Dosup's the next focus target. He will drop the Dome Shield. Rock Monkey will give it a go and say, never mind, that fire does hurt. But again, he gets burst healed right back up.
They just say, cool, dude, enjoy your Dome Shield.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go back to the point.
Jeez.
Weird stuff from G2. Why die on that hill? Why die on that corner? Dosup's just doesn't want to die, period, it seems, as that Dome Shield Not
Great
ideal. Comes out, it's going to result in just one kill for G2, and Envy get it right back to fragging.
Inflamed right back out once again. Immortal being triggered, but how long will that keep Cuss alive? The answer is not very long whatsoever. Evil Mojo, just because why not? Let's get this point now and not worry about it being staggered in any kind of fashion. Great mini stun there onto Vex, and he'll be taken down as well by Tolkien. And now a 3-0 lead, and look at the top left-hand side of your screen. 4 players boating some kill streaks, 3 of them over the number of 13.
I mean, Cuss and Bodies are both kill-less through the first round. And let's take a look at the KDs and see if that trend has continued here. I know I've not seen any kills from Cuss, I don't believe, unless he was able to weave his way into the backline. Rock Monkey continues to hold down the high ground here. So many headshots onto the barrack. I know he's got a big head, but my goodness, the amount of headshots on this poor dwarf today, simply too high.
Is continually 1050 plus. As Tolkien will trade out his life for eye drop bodies. Wanted to find a second, but Vex will turn that one aside. And now a minute and 47 seconds as the payload will stall out just on the narrow part of the top of this slope before it turns into the base. But again, look at this. Rubo on the high ground with Random, able to get themselves established, and that's not what Dosups wants. He wants to get those turrets set up there, and he has not had a chance to do so yet. Seismic Crash coming out, but what will it find? It looks like in the backline it will find one, as there's a nice conversion as Rock Monkey comes back through. Dreadser being used in desperation, but a Pyre Strike will get a small little mini stun at a Cuss Cutie, who is low. One more shot will do. Can he find it? The presence will do it. Enlightenment comes out, not able to connect as it was the dodge roll getting it back in, but it doesn't matter. The peel was there, and now Tolkien is the one popping off with Random Noob.
My goodness. And it's coming from all members of Envious now. They've definitely seized the momentum for this set, and G2 looking a little bit lost that game. That is not the way you expect that cookie to crumble there. Granted, that is Envious's map pick because they were the losers of game number 2, and we are going to be in losers pick for the remainder of this set. So, of course, G2 holding the L in this one. They will have selection of the next map. And they are sitting just about a year since their last major LAN win.
Yeah.
This is not the way you want to kick this one off, going down after an undefeated online split.
Yeah, DreamHack Valencia was just this last weekend. That was the last time we saw a combination of these players win, as they were Team Cryptic back then. It just comes to me, you know, this G2 team continues to look good, They show up at LAN, and they just feel flat. They don't really feel like the same G2 we see online. Again, not having played the tempo or style that we're used to seeing them.
Right.
Gabby, Gore, what do you guys think?
I think the major thing, though, wow.
Yeah, I'm lost for words.
It's just that.
Okay, cool. We're here. That's a good way to put it, though. Just not looking like the same G2 that we expected in here, because they played so well during the regular portion of the split that it's even better than they have before, and they can still turn it around.
And it's in that same vein, I'd say, that we saw Fnatic during like the last LAN. Not when it was the finals for the PPL, but then the one following the Masters for spring, where it was just this area where it's like, man, you just don't feel Fnatic right now. Like online, you felt like Fnatic. During the Wednesday finals, you felt like Fnatic, but then throughout the Masters, they didn't quite feel the same way. And I think that's what we're kind of seeing here in G2, where it's like you still have that potential. It's still there, and everyone can still see it, but you're not watering the seed and making it flourish the way that it normally should.
And speaking of that LAN history, where G2, yes, under a different name at Valencia last year, got the victory, but the most recent ones to win from North America on LAN are Envy, even though we've had things since then if you're looking at the region independently. And people like Tolkien were a big part of that. And I got excited when we saw the Leon lock in and the rest of the comp rounding out, because it did look likely that he was going to be on this pick, and he was.
I will say, they are in their own little booth with a hallway and doors and walls between us and them. I could still hear them yelling at the end of that one, and a lot of it was just built on the back. I think of stellar performances all around. Again, there was a point where 4 of them are taunting huge kill streaks, but I think Tolkien was just the one that, again, the staple for it. When you have someone who can play Leon like this, it just fits so well into your team. It's just so consistent.
When you have the 4s like this, where you're zoned in so much the whole time, I feel like that's even more why the scream happens, because you're looking at the screen, you're like, I'm so focused. We're not down. There's no downtime because we're still moving through this. Okay, there goes one game in our pocket. Now they're once again ahead in the set.
And it's like the perfect setup because, like you said, you're hyper-focused, right, in on this. But because you win the game relatively quickly, it doesn't really wear you out. You use that little bit of focus right now. You get a little bit of a break so you can stretch it out and kind of reset yourself. Then you go into the next game and you're feeling comfortable once again.
And whenever Tolki's on something like the Leon, that leaves Rubu to be the solo frontliner for the team. And I think he enjoys it very much. In that game, pretty great performance. Even when he forced it off the objective a couple times just because of Bomb King, and then he'd realize, oh, wait, I just mitigated a lot of that damage. I can just walk right on back.
I enjoy watching Rubu play solo frontline as well. I think that's something everybody, if you're trying to figure out how to be a frontline there, like a few players, like Feel is someone that you should always keep your eye on learning that, but I think Rubu has definitely brought himself not only into the scene and solidified himself as one of those top frontline names that you really need to be paying attention to, just because what they are able to accomplish mainly as a team is kind of going to be set up between, I want to say, like the synergy between him and Mr. Hayes, him and Tolki, him and Rockman. Like, he is setting up the front line, as you would expect, and making it so much easier for everyone to do their jobs.
And this is a team that doesn't take a single win for granted.
Yeah.
And that's why we can hear them scream so loudly. Even though it's the middle of a set, it's still early. This is technically, if it goes to Game 7, not even halfway through, because it would be halfway through next game, but they still, every single time they get a win, they feel that enjoyment to the degree where then they go into the next one and, okay, we got that one done. We have to approach the next game the same exact way.
And I mean, part of it is, again, you want to ride that momentum. One of the things we've mentioned about G2 in the past, and this goes for pretty much anybody, you're going to be emotional about losses. You're going to take that, and it's just how hard does that loss hit you versus how much does a victory bring you. So if you get knocked down once and you're able to bring it back, does that just equal you out, or do you kind of carry that momentum forward? Envy, I think, is one of those teams that will carry that momentum because they celebrate so hard, because they feel it, and a victory for them impacts their mood all around. You can tell they're all kind of comfortable, happy, and ready to keep playing.
And now having the coach in there during the entirety of the time, you see Meta Pusher being just as involved, and we've heard that people like Rubu very active in the comms during the drafting phase and stuff as well. So moving on forward with Furia, still going undefeated, still feel pretty good in these games.
So far, the first two, I will admit, the first two maps, I did choose like the draft I thought was better. That last one, I was like, who has Fury? Like, I'm just going to go with that one. I'm going to go with that. And again, this is something I think we've seen kind of the opposite of. With a lot of PPL teams, we've been able to go for like, who hasn't been winning? And we're going to vote against you until you win.
So, Random Noob, did he just age himself like 10 years by tucking in his shirt?
It's to give him that wisdom.
Yeah.
He's wizened himself up. Tucking a shirt in.
I don't know if I've ever really seen a jersey tucked in.
Never.
But hey, he's rocking it. You go, man.
No, I can't think of a time I've seen a jersey get tucked in.
No.
Like, at least here.
Yeah, I think I see more, the casters in the suits, your shirts usually tucked in.
Makes
or
sense.
the dad polos.
The dad polos.
Like
I don't wear any
sometimes
dad
you'll
polos.
see. Yeah.
I own these shirts and t-shirts.
I don't have any shirts like that. I'm not that cool, but at least, you know what? I think that
Cool.
Jesus. Random Noob rocking that style, rocking it in the realm as well, just the way that he's been playing and getting to bring out things like the pip and then sticking on those blasters as before. And we had the questions of, okay, Maeve not as much in the favor anymore. Is he going to make any crazy flexes onto those? But I think that it is that combination. Yes, you want to be versatile in your team's draft selection, but also sticking to these picks that have worked so well for them in the past.
And flexibility matters a lot. And again, this is something that Fnatic has always been, to me, like the team that you should look up to in that, because I feel like they are one of the few teams that can run literally anything they want, and it will more than likely work out for them. It's like there are still bad drafts for them. There are still times where they will get out-drafted, but a lot of their players can pick up pretty much anything, and I think that's where we're seeing a lot of these top teams gravitate towards. They've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, you had like your one tricks or whatever you're really good at. Those are your staples. But, how well can you run like Zen if you need to pull him out? How well can you run Maeve if you need to pull her out? It's just those ones when it falls behind, when it's like, this would be perfect for this composition, this draft. We need that. You have to be able to play.
So on the side of G2, since they're currently down within the set, which area do you think needs more improvement moving forward? Is it the draft phase or is it the actual in-game play?
Honestly, it's just this interesting area of where does Furia fall? And can you counter her? I think that's one of the things that you have to look forward is what is going to take her down. So I think the drafting needs to be improved, But honestly, there's a lot of testing that has to go into that. What can deal with her, or do you just have to ban her to make sure you don't have to deal with her anymore?
Now it's going to be Frozen Guard. This is our first Frosty locale of the day. How do you think the dress will change up because of this specific map?
I expect we're going to, we have potential to see some healers, but I think we might see, or not healers, some snipers. But I expect we're going to end up seeing no healers this time, no supports.
Yeah.
I expect this is going to be a little bit more flank heavy.
And G2 did pick this map because they were on the loss from the last game. So interesting for them to bring it this way. And if you're looking at what they've been picking so far with their team, they had the Maldamba last time, and they had Fernando and Bear combo and things like that. But I think if they can try and get somebody with standing potential for this objective, and even in the first game that they ended up losing, the one moment they had was when they were able to dominate that positioning early.
I was just sitting here thinking, I wonder what they're going to ban, because I feel like right now both of these teams are really highly prioritizing Buck. G2 was just like, okay, we'll super high prioritize him. We'll just go ahead and ban him out. And I feel like that is a really solid choice just because of the things, again, that Buck can do on his own, let alone when he has someone helping augment him.
And then Makoa banned away as well. Nothing. Your face just, what a surprise. What a surprise.
Yes. Oh, man. Makoa's banned? How different.
But Kinessa, you mentioned the snipers, and G2 do decide to take one of them off the table.
Well, this is one of those areas we were discussing kind of coming into the LAN, and we even mentioned it earlier today, is who would get banned, or who would lose their ban spot for Furia. And a lot of people, or at least between the casters, were thinking, probably Makoa. Like, if someone's going to get taken down, Makoa's probably the one that you could deal with the best. It's not someone you really want to let through, but out of everyone else that typically gets bans, there's certain things on certain maps that you want to get rid of. Makoa is kind of the one that's like, all around, we can deal with them. I think that's why we saw the Grok pick earlier on, where it's just, here's a way to deal with that hook. Everyone's CC immune. Good luck dealing with us.
Yeah, that's good luck. But it's two frontliners banned away from Envy, which are Makoa and Khan. And then with the Kinessa banned away, that means that Strix is available. Do you think G2 is trying to potentially set up for that, take away one so they can have one, or they can anticipate it on the opposite side?
Well, it's kind of similar to what we were looking towards earlier, where it was actually mentioned when you are going through this banning phase, and you are actually second pick, you have the last ban. One of the things you have to be aware of is what are like the highly contended picks right now. What do we want to do? Do we want to take away the things that we know are going to be strong and leave one or two options that are open? If you leave one open, you know the other team's going to grab it. But if you leave two open, you get one. I think Fernando is in that like perfect spot where he's like, no one's going to ban him just yet. But he's always going to be highly contended between the two teams.
Highly contended indeed. First pickup for Envy. Leon, we've seen Rock Monkey and Tolkien both on this pick. So you're not necessarily giving anything away just yet of what type of composition you're going for when you decide to bring her out a bit early.
And that's actually one of the things, if you do have Tolkien kind of flex towards the Leon, I wouldn't mind seeing a Shaolin here. This is one of the maps I think he can do well on again. It's a lot of, can I peek out, get a lot of damage in, and then survive through that engagement. That's why flanks are going to be really good here. Bomb King, equally good here. And I think Envy have actually been able to just thread this draft exactly the way they needed to.
And with that Bomb King pickup on the side of Envy, you know that's going to Random Noob. And they were talking earlier about Evil Eyes Bomb King. Didn't work out for them during the last game, but maybe off of that victory from game number 3, Envy can really lock Random Noob into this pick.
When you're coming down, G2 have Furia already, which as of right now tends to give you, I want to say, the favor of victory going into a game just because of her percentage win as of right now. You get Strix, you get Cassie, so you're going to be fighting a little bit more at a range, which allows Envy, I think, to take over the point a little bit better. Oh. But if you can grab on early, you can push them out.
So they have Furia and Genos for G2. Why do you think that they went with that? Is it for the damage jump?
Well, I think it's in this area where if you have Genos, so you can buff now Strix, Cassie, and Furia. If you have all three of them with that Astral markup and you have Luminary, they are going to be hitting incredibly hard. And it also gives you a little bit of leniency. You can have both kinds of heals going on, so you can have the one burst heal when you need it, but a little bit of overtime heal just to make sure everybody stays topped off.
And if you're going to go for double support, what better roster to do that with when you have Cuscuti on the team as well? So this is game number 4. Envy currently standing up in the set 2-1. Let's go ahead and find out what happens.
double support on double front line, and it's Barrick, Fernando, two of the more mobile front lines. Do you see off the bat, since there is no flank on the board for Envy, do those frontliners just going to dive straight back to Strix and try to keep them uncomfortable?
I think so, right? And there's no real hard peel for G2 to be working around either. The one thing that I see that could be going well for G2 here is that they've mixed it up. They've thrown something into this mix now that Envy probably isn't super prepared to play against. I can't imagine it's a very common pickup for them as Furia is just so new. The amount of damage she does, though, I feel like she is going to pair fairly well with this Genos and this Luminary, and she doesn't have the best self-sustain options either, so that's going to allow Cutie, who is piloting Furia this time around, to just be a little bit more reckless.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do to get G2 back involved here. Maybe they'll be at their own speed once again. You can see, though, right off the bat, they're able to find a flare, and Rubu's going to get into the back line and take a lot of damage, including one snipe before I Drop Bodies has to turn and try to find another target. That would be Leon, able to find a lot of shots, and that will be enough to take Rubu down. So G2 early and aggressive, and you can see I Drop Bodies is moving forward with the rest of the team. Trying to find a couple of jump peaks. One headshot will ring through, looking for a midair and a Bomb King, which will just go astray. But regardless, the damage is there, and Team Envy are left with low HP pools, and they are very split up.
They are indeed, and now it's up to G2, I think, to communicate where these players are from Envy and try and clean some of them up before they get back to full HP, before they get and do what Random Noob just did to Bodies, sneak up on him and trade out a nice 1-for-1 there.
Oh, this is nice positioning. As you can see, Rock Monkey is able to put some damage down while both frontliners trade away shields back and forth with one another, keeping each other alive, and doing so successfully. Dosup's trying to move back forward as Anara will catch himself part of that cherished Kindle from Furia to stay full HP, but look at all the focus. 3 different players looking at him. Wow, is that an inflamed
That's
already?
early.
With a scout as well, trying to get Evil Eye on this Cassie to move on through, but really nothing found yet. Now I Drop Bodies needs to pick up some of the slack to get some damage dealt. He's able to find a couple of shots, but nothing resulting in kills yet.
He's got to hit shots. He's got to hit a lot of shots here, and he's got nobody on him, right? He has to be the one that carries the majority of this fight. Now here comes the Envy ultimates. Dread Serpent will be the first one. It connects, but it doesn't result in a kill outright.
Seismic Crash trying to set things back up, but a nice Immortal in response to keep everybody alive. Random Noob in the back line will get found from Evil Eye. Nice little drag shot there to take him down. Now Cutie, again, that damage could be very significant, but the Dome Shield will try to stagger things on the point for as long as possible. Pyre Strike comes through, finds a bit of chip damage. And now the Enlightenment just narrowly missing, not able to keep Rock Monkey alive. Overtime continues to toggle itself, but with Mr. Hayes falling, I don't know if these frontliners from Envy can stay alive for all that long.
Come on now, he just barely won't hit the Power Strike there, but Rubu is going to still fall. 99-99, the overtime now expiring in G2 by narrow margins. We'll be able to capture this first payload of the day. Random Noob, another flying kill for Evil Eye.
Looking solid so far, G2, and again, with these new scope changes from a while back, it's just been so interesting to see that the shots, if they do hit, are usually headshots, but they don't land nearly as often as they used to for a lot of these players.
That has to be a big major point of adjustment for Team Envy moving forward, is just the amount of pressure put on I Drop Bodies was virtually non-existent. Now they can stay that way if they really want to, but they're going to have to drastically change the way they take this fight. They sat largely in line of sight of Young Bodies the majority of the time there, and that's just not a recipe for success.
And this unauthorized use will make sure that flare is up just about always. About a 5-second cooldown for it. He'll hit a shot and likely change over, put another flare out. As he's hitting a lot right now, he's in Mr. Hayes right in front of him, but just narrowly missed the head. And again, the trades come out, so it's a 4-on-4 action. The payload just near this underpass of the bridge into the base, but that's a very tough spot to go through it. And now Rubu trying to counter out Anara's pressure, but not a lot of the damage is being confirmed. Flash comes out, but it's blocked by a shield, so Rubu will be able to sustain himself on the right-hand side of this defense, but not committing to getting up front. This is actually not a bad look for G2. All 5 are still up. They're charging up ultimates, and Rubu's 1 HP, forced into the Immortal, the Seismic Crash, also finding 3 on the high ground as Dosups is able to use the impasse wall to get up high.
Oh, finally they bring him down. Dosups so healthy for so long. There's so much healing pouring out of this G2 lineup right now. I want to take a quick peek at the healing charts to see how Mr. Hayes has been able to compete. He's beating both of those healers.
Almost
when
combined.
You add it up, I mean, yeah, it's almost combined here. It's incredible.
You know, Mr. Hayes has been, I think, for Envy, one of the more unsung heroes. He routinely, especially on Damba, has huge Dread Serpents that can change the tide of a fight.
Yeah, that one on Frog Eye was sick.
Yeah, and he does that time and time again. Although it might not be the sexiest support to play in the game, can definitely have some of the biggest impact if you are able to follow up with your team on big ultimates, which very routinely Envy will do. Rock Monkey on the left-hand side on this little ledge will poke a little bit and then use the Grace to get on back and then chip back away as he tries to keep this front line of G2 at bay, but easier said than done, but there's a lot of damage found onto Evil Eye with that presence.
Ooh, and Rubu will be the first casualty of war in this engagement. Here comes the Dome Shield as well. Team Envy do not want to give this one up. It's going to buy them a guaranteed 6 seconds. Nice angle of contest as well. The payload doesn't move forward an inch. Overtime starts to expire here. The front line is starting to show some cracks for G2.
Cuss will fall on Furia, and long-distance bombs are coming out trying to keep the Genos at bay, which will leave Evil Eye on the Cassie without much hope to survive. Does get dropped away, but I drop bodies. We haven't seen much of him on our player cam, but this is some of the stuff that he was able to do. Again, those headshots ringing through very nice. Look at the patience. Just waiting for that shield to drop, connects, easy double kill. He cleaned up a handful of kills in that push as well. So again, as you mentioned it, if he does not get any pressure on him, we should be expecting to see Bodies putting off a performance like he has so far.
And I wonder how he's going to approach this next round because of the lack of pressure in the first round. He is likely to be expecting some more this time around, and it's just a matter of how it comes. Are they going to ride straight at him on the horses? Is he going to have to sit back a little bit on Frozen Guard? Now, I got to bring you back to the spring, the Masters land in particular. Team Envy did such a good job handling Burrito Esports on this map in particular. Yeah. When we thought we were going to be playing and living around Akate on the sniper as we normally do, we were actually super concerned for poor little Crimson being focused out. He was something like 0-8 in that match on Frozen Guard. It was rough.
Yeah, this is really good play from iDrop Bodies, using the patience, staying mounted, checking to see who's pushing him, and then rotating all the way back to the middle, letting his team kind of push in that opening hole that Rubu will leave, and Tolki will actually get punished. And now Rubu's the next target as the dodge roll moves forward, as well as Dosems on the Anar just using those stone feet to move as far as possible. And now, ooh, the sound cue is heard from Mr. Hayes, who has to use a Dreadstorm in his face, and they turn on him while Rock Monkey takes down 2. So those are the plays that Mr. Hayes will bring for you. They're able to find 3 in return, and that will give them the control of the point and start getting that capture percentage boosted up.
Both teams definitely dragging their feet when it comes to capturing this objective, though. A lot of downtime there, only 27 to 30% after a fully fledged team fight has happened. Ultimates were used, people died, people are respawning, people are coming back for the second time this round as Team Envy just now had north of 66%. Vex with a nice little combination.
Oh, but that's interesting. Rock Monkey hits the Enlightenment, doesn't try to focus on the target that moved right through him. Wanted to try to find the Furia, does not find it, so no kill and no 50% back. And with that punishment, G2, after that seismic crash and through time and space combo, they're able to find all 5 for a full team wipe just in the nick of time. It was 87% for Envy, and now it's getting to above 70 for G2 with plenty of space to zone.
What a kickstart there. Body's looking for some more shots. Here comes the King Bomb, though. Renoob's got himself into a decent position, very far extended, and he's punished for it. Was not careful about where he wound up his ultimate.
Looking for that last shot. iDrop Bodies will get some help from Cuss Cutie to secure on Rock Monkey, who took a sniper shot and a handful of pistol rounds as well before he fell. Now G2 on the push. Again, need to find, I think this is probably the stapled area of, if you can get through this underpass without using many ults, that chance of getting yourself that 3rd point will increasingly become more positive.
Right, and that's where Strix comes into play. He's most effective on the objective and then getting you across this little gap right here. He's not super great once you get up in the face and up on the base of Team Envy and the defending team on Frozen Guard, but he's super helpful, especially when there's nobody to contest him through the other, 80% of the round.
And it's tough, too, for Team Envy because you don't want iDrop Bodies to sit near back this middle neutral point and sniping underneath it. But if you push too far forward, like Random Noob just did, he gets absolutely punished. Fortunately, he's got some teammates with him, but still, iDrop Bodies is on the other side of the map, and he's able to find a kill onto Rubu. So numbers still favoring G2, and if they can take down Tolki, which they will, that's going to be that underpass. That very important choke point will be penetrated very easily for G2.
I want to take a look at the damage charts here just to see where this Furia in particular is managing to sit. She's doing okay. She's hanging in there with the front lines, but bringing a lot of utility to the field as well. Cuss Cutie is going to be a big impact. Not quite as impactful as this Strix one. Evil Eye, he's quietly been taking top damage in this game.
Yeah, and I feel like Cassie has been notoriously in that position where it is constant DPS, but it might not always result in kills like you want to see from bodies. Seismic Crash coming out once again. We'll find 2 to convert, but will there be kills? There's 1 from Evil Eye, looking for a second. He's falling very low. Will he pop the scout to try to get that extra bit of mobility? But, ooh, Rock Monkey just sidesteps it and gets the kill in return.
May I have this dance, sir? And Rock is able to come out on top of that. It's a close call for sure. But you got to say, you know, the healing meter doesn't tell the whole story of what Furia is able to bring to a game, because the shielding is really actually bailing a couple of people. I wonder if that actually counts. Can we look at the shielding charts here, brother? I don't call for that very often.
Not too often.
So it does actually bring into effect, and this Furia is bringing about half of what these main tanks, these Fernandos, these barracks, are bringing, and that is a big difference.
Yep, effective health, whether it be by actual health numbers or shield numbers. It all counts the same. Wings of Wrath used to try to get away, but Rubu is right up top and puts that Fire Lance straight down the throat of Cusk Judy, who will burn away. And now Evil Eye trying to keep control. He's been doing this time and time again, wanting to get that hallway.
Man, that's tough to break.
Yeah, it really is, especially against the Fernando.
That is really tough. Merrick's completely set up. He drops his barricade to keep the entire back line safe, both DPS and the support. And then you've got Rubu poking anyone who would dare come to contest from a separate angle. My goodness. That's going to be the key there. G2 break that. They're going to be in good shape. But until then, Team Envious need to find a way to grab a neutral capture here and get themselves on the offense.
And it's so far, it's been mostly a struggle of, I think, do you go left, do you go right, and can you find the angle that Bodies has been sitting on? Because he's been playing very patiently. He's been staying on his mount. He gets himself to that wooden barricade, checks to see if anyone's pushing that right-hand wall side, which is his right side, respectively, and then we'll just back up and say, this is where they're rotating from. I'm going to move to the left, and the rest of G2 rotates very nicely.
It's a bit of a dice roll, because if Bodies just says, maybe they'll try and dive me, I'm going to go back to my old spot, then he gets crushed because all 5 of Team Envy are there. He sits in the back line, and Team Envy try to do the same thing again, then he gets crushed. It's really, really careful, delicate about not only positioning and living, but not taking too long to get to your spot and start being effective in this fight.
And the scout comes out early from Cassie, so that'll allow iDrop Bodies that natural vision, as it will provide the rest of the team the same. And now Random Noob wants to start to go to work on the frontliners. We'll take a couple of sticks, but the Inflame is up, and that's dangerous. Like you said, you don't want to be going into those wings. But unfortunately for G2, not much really found from the back end of this as it expires. They're able to trade away 1 for 1, so a 4-on-4 action on the point, but Team Envy is holding it down. Doseps wants to give this a go. And the Seismic Crash might just be enough to take the kill on the Tolkien, and that's enough damage to find.
It certainly is, and now bailing out Bodies. He was under the most pressure there. Rubu expended an Immortal to try and get that kill, but he was unsuccessful. 57% and climbing on the objective. G2 looks like, with proper zoning yet again, we'll take the payload.
Oh, but look at this aggression from Random Noob. He needs to find this kill quickly, though.
Nope.
Dodge rolls back into that mine area, and
That
now
heal.
Random Noob's in a really interesting spot. But look at the rest of the team. Envy is actually here with him, and now opening up some space for this King Bomb to potentially do some work. He's looking for a target. He won't find one, so he'll let that expire for absolutely nothing. 96% for G2, 5-on-5 action. But you can see Rock Monkey wants to push the left-hand side. There's a full front from Team Envy, mostly surrounding this neutral capture point. G2 has to respond, and the Dreadsaber comes out. Can they find the kills, though?
They have the ultimates. They have the ultimate advantage as well. They're still sitting on Enlightenment. G2 have nothing. They're getting close to a scout, but what's that going to bring to the battlefield? Random Noob finds 2 more. The Enlightenment is good. The pressure starting to get to G2, and Envy will take their first payload of the game.
Brilliant rotation from Envy, though. Random Noob is in the back line, wants to find the kill onto Cassie, pushes on it with the Poppy Bomb, doesn't find it. The rest of the team comes to help him gain some space, and he triggers up a King Bomb, which forces G2, although it didn't find any kills or any damage, it forces them back against that wall, which allows Team Envy to control 70% of the middle of the map, giving them the 3-2 lead now.
That's why he decided to just ride that out instead of popping it early, because at that point, no one from G2 can step onto the objective because there's a King Bomb just rolling into a wall in case anyone's dumb enough to try.
Brilliant play. It's the little things, even though it wasn't, again, the most PogChamp ultimate in the world, it got the job done.
Lazy's somewhere in the room going, where were these descriptions when I was playing Bomb King?
I did those things before you guys recognized.
I was zoning. I promise.
As he peeks
oh my
his
God,
head
he's
through
right
the
there.
door.
He's actually right there. Hi, Kev. Love you, bud.
Getting forward, though, again, this is an interesting push for Team Envy as they've already surpassed that, again, that very crucial choke point for the defense underneath that underpass. But They are getting punished a little bit here, so that payload will start to retreat just barely backwards with 1 minute and 16 seconds left on the push. Ultimates need to get farmed back up for Envy. I think that's probably priority number 1. And then it'll come down to, do we call for them to be used or not? Eye drop bodies is going to be very difficult to take down from this upper rampart as well.
Trying to find a way in. This is what's difficult, right? Where Bodies was there to get G2 across this chasm, he is there to stop Team Envious from getting across this chasm. It has to be some long-range poke or maybe just a blind lucky kill, lucky frag up on the high ground here. Random Noob, another King Bomb to clear it all out. Everybody back into spawn now, chaps. He has the Immortal as well to not only zone, but to get a kill on his way out.
It was a good target, but was it worth the 2 ultimates? We'll see here soon as we're down to 35 seconds. The payload's still moving, 5 on 4 for the next 2 seconds before Nara can come back through, but Random Noob does get picked out. Eye drop bodies with 2, looking for potentially a 3rd. He's on the low ground, so not exactly the best line of sight ever, but you can see Rock Monkey is already backing up, trying to put some damage down while Tolki tries to run away. He's going to be the last soldier out, and he will be able to retreat successfully. Plenty of time for a full 5-man to stack right back up on this payload, but again, there's a lot of obstacles to get through just to even potentially get this overtime.
G2 would go into the next round with just a half comeback mechanic enabled. Here's the Dome Shield slamming down. Envy are looking to spend. They do have some great ultimates to work with here, and G2, whether Envy or know it or not, they have nothing left in the tank to fight them back with.
Dread Serpent also coming out from Mr. Hayes. It's huge, too, as they're able to find not 1 but 2, and it's on the big targets. Here's a 3rd as Dosups falls away. This might just be it. Enlightenment comes out. Why not find it 1 more? Random Noob cleans it, and Team Envy, just by the skin, able to find that win out. Wow, what a ballsy call to say go for it with the Dome Shield at 1 HP.
Risk reward, my friends, risk reward. Envy take the risk and they now reap the reward of a Game 4 victory, now just sitting 1 away from closing this set out. My goodness, that looked like G2's game. They were in control right up until the moment that they weren't, and it all fell apart in just 1 round.
And it's just a couple of moments. You know, Random Noob gets that high ground, eye drop bodies, misses a very clutch snipe, and then he's able to roll into that King Bomb. It forces, again, everybody back, and it keeps Dosups isolated. That kill was the big moment to where they were able to push it through. They're 1 game away. Gabby and Gore, what do you guys think? They're going to take it home?
Maybe. A lot of these games are having a very flip-flop moment down the middle where it looks like one person's game during the first half and then something just changes.
I mean, except for Stone Keep, every beginning point G2 has been able to come out looking incredibly strong. The first fight of every map has looked like it's going in their favor. And then that time around, every time it gets towards the late game, it seems like Envy just click like, okay, here's the strategy that they're going for. This is how we need to beat it. And they just adopt it like it's nothing. They pick it up and they push them out.
And early on, it came down to, are you going to answer the Strixen, let him do whatever he wants? And since you don't have any of those flanks, you're relying on the frontliners to bully him. And there were a few times where Eye Drop Bodies, left alone, was able to get a couple shots that secured it for them. But then later on, just as the caster said, some of those very key moments where it just comes down to it, and Envy was able to close it.
And they had one bizarre reaction during the draft that I saw that I understand it now as it comes through, and that was when Furia was first picked. You could see a couple of them start laughing because I think they knew exactly what they needed to do to try and deal with that. And it was in that area where they are now, first off, the first team I think that has been able to take her down, but also they seem comfortable with it. They recognize, okay, if we can force you into this pick, we know how to deal with it. We know how to just absorb her so that she doesn't do anything.
Yep, first Furia defeat of the day. And I think those victories on Furia, it comes down to the compositions and everything around her. It's not just like, oh, this one pick is killing everybody, guys. But it is important that Envy, you can tell they spent their time outside of game as well, leading up to this LAN, getting to know these sorts of picks so that when they are pitted against them, they're not completely caught off guard.
This is going to be, I mean, it's an important moment, I think, for both of these teams. G2, if they lose this next map, they are out for today, and Envy move forward. And Envy, of course, are definitely going to be looking for the win, just because the last time they got to go up against Fnatic in a finals, they were able to come out on top. So it's something that I think they are looking to try and repeat again to give themselves that kind of confidence, because once you get a win like that, especially since that was like the first of a long LAN month, you kind of want to keep that momentum rolling for you. And I think this is kind of a similar spot. You have the first one for the week, then you go into a second LAN, essentially, and you have a bunch of other teams getting added into the equation. You have to focus on the fact that you know you can be the winner.
Well, Meta Pusher had said in their pre-game interview how, yes, they of course, want the victory and
Yeah.
everything, but they like the fact that the first day almost, it seemed like he was saying that it can serve as a warm-up for the rest as well, where you want to take it just as seriously because you have that title on the line, but you get to play against these PPL teams, one from your region, potentially one from another region. Try and figure some things out before you go into the other 4 days left of the week of gameplay.
This is, I think, the best example this is still, the PPL finals for the summer. And I think what's interesting about it is that when it comes down to, let's say, look at Fnatic, the last time we had the spring PPL finals, online split for both of the summer and the spring, they went undefeated. They were able to win that LAN, and then they're coming in this one, they're still in the finals. And I'm interested to see if that is something that's just a weird stat to have, where it's like, well, as long as it's PPL related, Fnatic are really solid. But every LAN we've had that has been more international based hasn't quite gone their way. Envy looking solid.
Ascension Peak, our next destination. G2, once again, get that map selection because they're on the downside of that last game. But this is one of those maps, too, that we've seen banned out a couple times. I believe it was banned out during the first set as well. And with the interesting structure of this map, it poses for a lot of different types of compositions.
This is a map I know G2 have kind of adopted in. They were some of the first teams, I think, that we saw show the prowess that you can have on this map once you know it relatively well, that you can shut down another team as long as you have that. But I feel like a couple of other teams have kind of caught up to them on that they've recognized, okay, this is going to be something that we have to learn. Let's pick up Ascension Peak now so we don't have to learn it like in a LAN scenario when all we need is one win to go to the finals.
And this isn't the first time they've done something like that, whatever the newest map is, try and make it theirs. And you're one game away, potentially, from getting eliminated out of this bracket. If you're going to bring out something like that, this is the time to do so. I'm sure this is not a scenario they were looking forward to, but here they are.
And again, you just see every single member of Envy is looking comfortable. I mean, Rock Monkey, he turned a serious face there, but right before he did have a smile on his face, and it seems like the team, again, they're just joking around, Tolkien, Rubu, everyone kind of keeping the mood up. Whereas I feel like you can kind of hear the atmosphere of G2, even though you don't actually have the comms coming through, where it's just not the normal silence I would say we get out of them when they're facing defeat, but in that area of you can tell they're not happy.
Because at this point, when you've lost 3 games and you have to win 3 straight games to be able to win this set, and the way that you've been struggling against this team as it is, makes that seem like a not very likely scenario.
The exact same reaction, you could see it in Rock Monkey and in Meta Pusher. Furia gets picked and they crack up. And again, there's what it is. I mean, you get Brand from Fernando, anti-heal. You get the Death and Taxes Leon, which has the 90% anti-heal on it. And you can buy Wrecker on her, which gets rid of that shield that is causing a lot more trouble. She has 2 things in one, and Leon is the one champion that can deal with both of them at once.
It really makes you think about just the mentality aspect that goes into it. When you look across the way and the enemy team is laughing, obviously all of them are zoned in right now on this draft, but if you just get a little peek over your monitor and after you lock it in, you see that, wait, why are they laughing at us, guys?
Why is it that Envy's giggling that we just picked Furia? Because it's the same thing you did last time around, almost going for the kind of same pickups, this time grabbing Cassie there. But I mean, Furia and Nara didn't do as much. I feel like G2 have a lot of control. This map, again, does actually, I think, lend itself a little bit more into a Nara. Nice big capture point. As long as you keep her alive, you're set. But if you're looking at someone who can burn them down, Fernando, Barrick, Bomb King Leon, they are going for the same draft on the side of Envy.
Yeah, this is the same thing so far. If it worked once, it can work again, right? So you might as well just stick to your guns. And that's the debate that we're seeing, that versatility as opposed to sticking to those quality picks for yourself. And Envy have shown versatility, especially being able to flex some of these frontliners onto other picks. But they're not afraid to say, hey, we obviously like our Bomb King. We always have, and we always will. So we're going to use that if it fits.
And this is one of those moments where I think specifically because we have a newer champion in the mix, you can kind of see the battle of the minds behind the draft more than anything. You can see trying to figure out what went wrong, what goes right, what can we do to give us a little, like, alleviate some of the pressure or apply some more pressure. You go for the Drogos, the Ruckus. You have a pretty solid lineup as G2, especially with Furia being able to kind of help keep some of those carries alive. But I feel like Envy I mean, they just found success with this draft. They know what they're doing, and they're already warmed up on every single one of these champions.
Yes. So, of the 2 drafts this time around,
I'm leaning Envy, which I think jinxes them.
so you think maybe it'll get pushed then because of the fact that you don't think it'll get pushed?
I mean, it's just one of those things. It seems like they know what they're doing at this point. Their reactions to Furia getting locked in first every single time has been laughter. And so I'm assuming that means they have a game plan for this. It just comes down to how well they play, and so far they're on fire.
Well, Team Envy, 1 game away from securing a spot in the grand finals, so let's check it out.
My big question to you, Nick, do you think that the Fernando with Brand and Death in Texas and Leon is just the sheer early game counter to Fury? Because it worked last game relatively well.
Yes, but not any more so than any of the other supports.
Sure.
I think Furia deals the best with it just because of that innate shielding that basically everyone's taken at least 400 or 500 health. So she's able to navigate around that, I think, better than just about any other support. So if you have to take someone into it, it might as well be Furia.
Yeah, I guess that's very true. We'll see what happens here. And we were commenting for a second that we're not seeing a lot of Shaolin lately, which is, a little surprising, I think, for more the North American side of things than necessarily the European side of things. But
specifically for Rock, he's normally sat either Cassie or Shaw. That's his favorite too. Leon's definitely poked her head on every now and again for him, but not like this. Not
all
4
day.
games out of 5.
Yeah, all day it's been Rock on Leon. And here again, they're going to try to get this high ground contested over here, but the Temple and Shield to be burned down. But again, Dosup's just not able to survive very long in the face of all that damage in the high ground, so be forced away. It was 12% for Team Envy, but now G2 wants to rotate back over toward the middle of the map. Rubu will try to negate that by keeping some pressure on the right-hand flank, which Dosups has to soak up and retreat away from, and Envy will retake the point, back to 42%. No first blood yet, but again, these early fights on the neutral capture point generally last a long time on Ascension Peak.
Cutie taking the brunt of this assault from the King, and the health bar is just not existing anywhere. I'm looking at Doe, I'm like, Doe, man, he kind of needs some healing. Then I look over at Cuss, I'm like, oof, well, Cuss, that's a worthy recipient, and then everyone else just getting blown up in between.
Yeah, and there it is. Team Envy able to find the majority of the kills there, keeping the numbers in their favor. Big fireball will connect on the last 2 players left to contest, one of which is Dosups, who wants to get forward but really can't, which this has been the big storyline for a lot of Ruckus lately, is that yes, he brings damage when he stays alive, but his survivability has just been absolutely punished by all these big burst champions.
And especially when you look at the Bomb Kings and the Drogoses that have been making it through the draft today, the only thing that they are limited by is the difficulty that it is to hit their in-hands. When you take that away from them by putting a big, fat, slow target in front of them, I mean, Ruckus, he just looks like a hunk of junk.
Yep. All parts and bolts. Not a lot of the frags coming out lately. Although Dosup's piloting the Ruckus is one of the more notable players, with Bittner, who also played him earlier today. But again, the survivability is just not what we used to see back at the HRX days. Dread Serpent for Team Envy coming out to try to retake this point, as it was 99%.
Wow.
And wow, no one's able to touch in time, so no overtime even coming into play, as Team Envy will find the first point, 99-93. Immortal also being used from Fernando, and Rubu will help convert not 1, but help with 2 more, as Random Noob finds himself a double kill. 1-0 the score, and now the payload keeps on moving.
G2 just not looking themselves today. Envy looking pretty clean.
Yeah.
And when they get in that rhythm, right, there is a value. Even if Leon is not Rock's absolute favorite character, there's something to be said when he plays it 4 games out of the 5 this series is looking to go.
Tolkien actually leading the damage charts, which is something that if Drogos knew, he would not be very happy about, I'm sure. Seismic Crash coming out will be enough for Cuskey to convert 1, but he's also very low, and I drop bodies in a very awkward and compromising spot, will be taken down, now leaving Evil Eye very vulnerable, and charging right on through his Rock Monkey, who again has been very consistent so far, and now he's got lined up players in front of him, and Enlightenment could be used, and it is able to chew down 1, looking for the second onto Cuskey, and Tolkien will actually be the one who gets both kills, and now it's a 5-on-3 as this payload looks to finish off this push.
Turns out Inara was trapped inside of that tunnel with Leon, not the other way around, despite what you might have thought. Team Envy will slam it home for a 2-0 start, and the damage charts and the aggression, that's what I was expecting to see from this G2 frontline today. That was the marquee characteristic that those two showed. Dosups and Cuskey were so ruthless in the online split. So often would they take top damage, so often would they take over a game. We are just not seeing that type of aggression today.
And, taking a look at even just the small player cams, watching individuals on Team Envy start to pop off and get loud and get aggressive when they're in their own physical stance. That's something we haven't seen since back at Vegas. When they were here in the spring, it was a very tranquil Envy. Even though they were able to take down G2 before meeting Fnatic in the finals, it looks like a possible repeat here, as Envy has really not taken any kind of backseat driving at all to G2.
And to the same note, G2 have been pretty quiet today, albeit they haven't had much reason to get up out of their seats so far. But even when things were going well for them, they seemed pretty reserved, which is definitely a new take, a new strategy for them. They usually like to get up out of their seats. Ultimate starting to fly. No frags either way, but an early 39% lead for Envy.
Oh, this is just, the Hexafire was channeled. Just trying to find Tolki. Fortunately, iDrop Bodies can take him before that bowling ball got him fully around the corner. Evil Eye able to come back and find one in a random noob as well, so Envy will have to back up. Evil Eye looking to punish anyone who wants to linger a little bit too long, but no one will really offer themselves to that cause, as it is now up to 85% and capturing very quickly. Tolki has to use the rocket boots to try to get closer, but he realizes that attempt would be futile and tries to back up, but Evil Eye is here to punish with iDrop Bodies as well. This is the G2 that we are used to seeing.
Fusillade for the first time today as well, starting to land a little bit, but not a ton of great targets for Evil Eye. He hasn't had a lot of space created for him, and he doesn't have a lot of great easy targets to hit. Leon and Bomb King have done a good job just staying away from him for the most part. And these front lines will start to have to maybe count their blessings a little bit as these shields start to fall quicker and quicker. Later game Wreckers coming online for Evil Eye as he just completely Swiss cheeses that barricade.
Mortal came out trying to say Mr. Hayes won't do the trick, but Enlightenment able to find a lot of damage. And Evil Eye and Wild Rock Monkey able to hit a presence back right on through. Vex does clean up too, though, on the backhand side. So 3-on-3 on the point at the moment. Make that a 3-on-2 as Random Noob is able to find Vex, who was lingering a little bit too long, but iDrop Bodies trades away.
Game of inches there, for sure. A lot of things could have gone a different way in a lot of different moments of that fight. Tolki just barely makes it around the corner, only to go down just seconds later. Fire Spit won't connect. We were able to gobble that one up directly so it won't explode. Jumping on the grenade, so to speak.
Yeah, sacrificing one for the team. Salvo on the
It's not hard to do. It only does 150 damage.
No, not really the hardest call to make.
He's not the biggest hero of the day.
Don't worry, team. I got this one.
Yeah, okay, champ. 106 on the clock here. GT looking to make a conversion of their own happen. I don't know if he even knows where that one was going.
Yeah, thought about 3 different ways, like a quarterback trying to pick which route he wanted to throw that one to. Ends up checking down to the support. Not able to find much besides just a mild inconvenience from Mr. Hayes. Random Noob, but this for a backline ultimate. We'll find one, make that a second as Random Noob's able to clean up. Rubu looking for the third, but Cuss is very healthy, and he's going to just kind of stagger and bunny hop his way backwards. Rubu wants to force the issue, though, and will push right on through with more fire damage, but can't really commit beyond that because none of his teammates are there. So it'll be much ado about nothing there. Ooh, and now popped off the
you
map.
played yourself.
Yikes.
You played yourself. I mean, I was about to say, that's fine. That's perfectly worth it for him. He pulls about 10 or 15% or so ultimate charge out of that little skirmish, but now he may have just opened the door to conversion here for G2. That's the pick they needed.
Good poke, though, from Rock Monkey again from the high ground, who's staying relatively healthy. Dome Shield will contest the point for Tolki as Rubu and Random Noob will find 2 more. iDrop Bodies is watching this all from the left-handed flank, and him and Vex say, not this day.
Well, they get the Dome Shield out there.
That's true.
You know, Tolki, without Rubu, was forced to bring out the big guns there just to hold that one down and prevent it. The point will be scored defensively for Team Envy, so you have to say there is value in that. But they do activate the comeback mechanic yet again for G2.
Those damage numbers are looking a little bit more friendly towards G2's cause. It was not so friendly before.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not a great, it's not a very big range, right? You've got, you know, 10,000 damage separating first place from 6th place.
Yeah. And 4 of those 6 names are in red, which is never so great.
That's yikes.
Big oof.
Healing numbers relatively even here today, but of course, Fury is not only healing, shielding will be part of her mitigation as well. She gets the Cauterize 2 online. Vex has been really, really good on it today. Everyone's looked pretty solid on it today, I have to say. It's made it through a ton, but it hasn't taken over a game.
Hexafire being used and channeled a little bit deeper on with the Inflame coming out. Enlightenment right into the face of a damage-reduced Cuss Cutie, so he's happy to soak that up, although Dose-Ups does fall on the back end. Evil Eye looked for the Dragon Punch, but uses it just as a way to reposition, and really he's just watching his friends die around him as they were really looking for him to pull the trigger and find a kill. So Envy will come back, 62% for G2. Numbers, though, favor the team in red as they retake control, but they're still biding their time and looking for more because that capture boost can swing things in G2's favor very quickly.
Vex finds a great frag there in the backline under Rubu as well. Dosup's now with no ultimate in hand, just the strength of his back trying to get into the back line of Envy and do some work, but he is again scurrying for his life. That's the majority of what I feel he's had to do today.
Almost finding that last shot was random noob, but instead he's going to get pushed down by Anar, who's got a seismic crash in the back line, but not able to find much as Mr. Hayes is able to take her down before it really connects. 66 to 89% still favoring G2. Numbers, though, favoring Envy as they're looking to make their way back through to find one more kill in the Doseups. They'll do so. Random noob mounted up, trying to get back to this fight as fast as possible. Tolki has been putting out good damage numbers all day on this barrack, is continuing to do so, and he's starting to set up shop. Now the seismic crash. Attempt number 2 will be better. Random noob triggering an ultimate with less than 200 HP. We'll catch a big heal, and we'll look for Evil Eye, and we'll be able to convert him right at the end of a Dragon Punch, which takes down Rubu.
There it is. Dosup's now trying to get involved here, but he still doesn't have his ultimate, and he's still having a tough time coming online here. He finds the kill onto Random Noob. Big heal on a Cuss Cutie, and that swings it right back in G2's favor.
Huge missed opportunity. I thought for sure Rock was going to pull the trigger on the Enlightenment, but now the Dome still trying to keep the hopes and dreams alive for Team Envy to take down G2. This will be the last point if they can stay alive, but Rubu falls. Tolki trying to stay up, but the Cauterize is just too heavy with all the numbers that are around him, and it looks like G2 will come back on this unless Rock Monkey says something about it. Almost touches, but not quite.
That would have been a long shot there. That's a Hail Mary if I've ever seen it. G2 bounced back for the time being, but that was a certainly valiant effort from Team Envy. That same fight happens again without the comeback mechanic, and Envy are right in there with G2.
I Drop Bodies is actually right up front while Doseups puts some constant pressure from the high ground. Cuss Cutie also moving forward. They'll find Rubu staggered away from the rest of his team, who was trying to back a little bit further up. Random noob will use a nice poppy bomb to keep himself a little bit separated from Doseups, who wanted to aggress forward with the advance. He's going to give this a go again, at least on this right-hand side. And Cuss from the left will actually be able to pincer him through. So these frontline tandem duos between Cuss and, Doseups are really starting to come to life here in the late game.
Yeah, a lot of healing coming through still from Vex. These front lines are doing a great job, and just G2 in general, we know they love their Rejuvenate. Vex is able to close that 20,000 healing gap to about 9,000 here. Inflame is ready to go. He's fully charged on his passive, which increases his attack speed as he heals people. So the better you're doing as a support, the more offensive capabilities you will have.
Again, I Drop Bodies on this left-hand side. He has pushed this every single time they've gotten a chance to, and he's got a lot of free shots down where the objective is. And he's actually relatively safe from the high ground, although as I say it, a Poppy Bomb gets thrown out with a couple of other in-hands from Random Noob, who will push him back just for a small amount of time, but G2 will take that reprieve, get full HP, and give this one more go.
There it is, the Cauterize. Not doing a lot to keep G2 down for now. The first frag will go to them. Look at Doseups. He's playing right into the backline, and nobody's doing anything to him. He's still full HP. He gets the full effectiveness of his shield, and just now will he have to turn tail and head back to his own backline, but it's too late. G2
What?
Sneak it through right under Envy's nose.
That is simply, I would say, more of a little bit of a mistake from the damage dealers from Envy, because you saw Tolki fell early. Rubu was the only one contesting, and he fell down right on top of the point while the damage dealers were chasing the outside kind of echelons of G2's setup. And meanwhile, the two frontliners, again, of Doseups and Cuss, just walked that payload through like a couple of pallbearers.
That's the way you want to see it done, though, if you're a fan of G2 Esports. So much healing comes through right there at the end. I think G2 played the angles nicely, and were able to get a lot of that through uncauterized damage dealt. Starting to continue to be evened up here. The G2 frontline definitely struggling in the damage department a little bit more so, but like we were saying, G2 have been known to love them some Rejuvenate, and they've got all kinds of it on everyone except for the support.
I would say color me surprised, but as you mentioned,
she can't heal herself.
Exactly. Seismic Crash trying to be used once again. We'll find Random Noob, but again, no conversion whatsoever. Dragon Punch coming out, and Lightman trying to counter it, but the Immortal came out just in the nick of time. Evil Eye falls. Envy now with the numbers, looking to kill a couple of more to get them in staggered fashion. And look at this, Vex is low. Trying to get the Wings of Wrath online, won't be able to do so, so Tolki will finish that one off. 5-on-3 on the point. G2 staggering to get back, but they did find themselves 24%.
Very staggered, Allen. 8 seconds until Cuss is going to be back. and the lead is growing ever bigger for Team Envy. They're moving north of 60% now. Cuss has just respawned. There is one ultimate online. Unless Dosups goes big, and he doesn't. He has to cancel it and get right on out. No value for G2. I don't see a way out of this.
They need to find the kill. Dread Serpent also being used. King Bomb trying to finish this one all the way through. Will take the outside route, looking for the backline, but he gets taken down. Not over yet for G2 as they're trying to keep themselves on. Has to be a big moment from iDrop Bodies. A lot of low targets, but a big headshot from Rock Monkey. Rubu trying to stay alive, but Evil Eye very high on the HP pool, and Vex is staying alive as well, using these Pyre Strikes to keep the point contested as long as possible.
Vex keeps them in it just long enough. Dosups is actually back now, and G2 have turned the tables. Their ultimates are starting to creep closer and closer to full charge. Enflame 75%, 87% on the Dragon Punch. If they can bail out Evil Eye here, he'll be back in no time. 2 more frags for G2. They may have just done it.
No one's going to be able to touch it.
Dear God.
Goodness, I just got instant deja vu. When the last I remember these two teams playing this map, it was a 3-0 in favor of Envy, and G2's resiliency and their ability to stay alive late got them back 4 straight points, almost a copy-paste of what we just saw there. And wow, there was that one moment where they're pushing through, and no one in the damage-dealing department of Envy stepped on the OBJ. And that was almost, you know, one of those memed C9 moments. Everyone just kind of walked away from point. G2 capitalizes. They'll do that every single time.
It's part of the nature of Ascension Peak. It's the largest capture point in Paladins. It gives you the most room. It's got 2 statues on it for cover. So in those really, really dark situations where you just need to stall out by every means of the word, G2 find a way to get it done, and they do it. They had one ultimate. They had one Hexafire that they canceled, and nothing else. When you have things in the tank for Envy, I was like, this is a 1% chance they bring this out.
It's really tough, though, because at the same point, like you mentioned, that objective being so scattered with obstacles, if you're trying to push to capitalize those kills, you could very easily get turned on. And, well, Envy didn't want to pull the trigger, so they'd go down this map, but not out of this one yet. Gabby Court, take us back.
I must say, after looking at G2 and how they reacted after that victory, I feel like it brought them back to life Evanescence style.
It was in that vein where they're like, even after that capture and convert, when they tied it up 3-3, I was kind of on the fence about whether or not they were actually going to, because they committed so much there. They have no ults really going into that next round. Envy used so much at the beginning of that gives them such a lead, and it just looks like they should be able to control it, but all it takes is just one step out of position or one step too far, and then that, like you could see, get flipped on its head.
And in those moments, because there's a good portion of time where G2 had no ultimates, Envy had quite a few, and you think, okay, if they play this right, this should be going over to Envy. They just have way too many resources for themselves right now, and it's fairly even on the point. And then suddenly, things got dragged out, and you thought, okay, those ult charges are coming back for G2. Suddenly, it's a completely flipped scenario.
And it's in that area, like even at the end of that, if Envy does touch and they cause an overtime, with as close both of those teams were to converting, you have G2 get their ults. You prolong that game another 30 seconds, they just get ults online, and then they try to take the fight doing that. But I wonder if that's going to be, I want to say holding. It's one of those things where Envy, that wasn't their map choice, and they were doing that well. Now they're going to their map choice.
Are they just expanding the number of figurines and stuffed
Mascots.
Animals and all that there? But then is it one mascot if you're having a bunch of different animals? You have the monkeys for Rock Monkey. That was a little kitty, it looked like, for Rubu. And then they even borrowed the cheerborkers in Las Vegas. SK lent them. Bitey said, here, you can have them for the time being.
I feel like you're only allowed, like, the cheerborkers can't be your mascot. They're Bitey's mascot, and he can loan them to you.
Yeah, they just borrow.
They always come back.
It was that NA pride. He was just saying, okay, go ahead and hold it down in that way. And hey, it worked for them at the time. Maybe that's what's missing. Maybe Bitey needs to ship them.
Everyone needs their cheerborkers.
Like in that last moment of last
game. It's NA.
Oh, that's true. Who knows? But Timbermill, that's the next place we're going. We're in that kind of weird, wonky part of the map. So we just went to Ascension Peak and now Timber.
I'm actually kind of happy that this is the place they've decided to direct things, specifically because of the difference of this map. This map plays completely differently than a lot of the maps in the game. It is kind of isolated in the heights that it has and the areas that are blocked off and where you can go. Flanks can be good. Snipers can be good. Anything you want, as long as you know the map well, you can make work. And I think that's kind of the strength you have to play on. This one is very, very oriented on, does your draft work with Timbermill?
And the way the high ground works on this map where you need to take advantage of it, but it's also pretty obvious of where you're going to be posted up. So it's that balance of make sure that you're taking advantage of it, but not making yourself too vulnerable. You have some kind of out if need be. And right now, Envy start off right off the bat by banning away the Strix.
I feel like G2 is catching on to some of their troubles, which I think Leon is a good ban right there, just because, again, Envy have 2 players that can run it incredibly well, and it has been doing a lot against G2, stopping them from being able to accomplish a lot. Even at the end of that last map, there were times where it's like, man, if Leon is just able to get like one more shot off, this fight is completely different than it was just a second ago. It didn't end up happening that way, but still causing enough of a threat to warrant that ban.
Leon has been a great way for Envy to deal with that Furia and just try and take off the table as soon as possible. So no snipers this time. Kinessa taken away as well. G2 didn't want to have to deal with the Soul Soldier on the opposite side, so Buck gets early priority.
And I like that. Again, you're looking at someone who has the ability to jump from roof to roof and get up in the face. Normally, I would say of a sniper, but you don't have a sniper to go to. But anyone who would want to sit up there, if you have a Cassie up there, if you have a Shaolin up there, they're not going to be as safe as they could be knowing that Buck is just around the corner.
So we'll have to see how G2 ends up responding to this pick. And like we said before, they're on the back foot. If they want to take this home, they have to win 3 games in a row, but clearly got some life seeped back into them after that last game. Do you think that they're going to start coming out with anything wonky, or is it going to be similar dress as to before?
I feel like the beginning of this is probably going to follow like a similar vein, or not, yeah, a similar vein where it's like, this is what's solid on this. This is where we know our draft can find success, and our Fury is a brilliant pickup to have this early on. But as we get closer and closer towards the end, I expect to see a couple of differences get picked up, specifically because there are champions that I feel like we haven't gotten to see yet today that excel on Timber Mill that we haven't gotten to see for a while now, actually.
And because of the way the bans have went, taking away 2 of the snipers, that does leave Khan available, and it looks like Envy may be locking into this one nice and early.
And this is honestly big for them because, again, Khan can give bonus damage with that shout. He gives you in-hand damage. So the right scenario, you go up with a Buck, you go up with anybody, and that's going to augment their in-hands just to do a little bit more damage. And when you're fighting in this kind of bowl shape around the point, that can change a lot of the fight.
That's the thing about this type of map, is it really can feel like shooting fish in a barrel if you let things go a little too crazy from those DPS players.
Do it.
You wanted the Willow?
I wanted the Willow.
All right. What do you think that G2 is thinking with bringing this one?
And again, this to me relates to something we saw earlier, which I think is where Willow does incredibly well, and that is when you have Khan, when you have 2 supports on one side, 100% anti-heal seems real nice, and that is exactly what Willow can give you. And you're looking at this area where you kind of have to, I want to say, Tyra firebomb with the seedlings, where it's just, this point is ours for a second. This is going to clear you off of it. This is going to give us some breathing room. There's a lot of little corridors that those seedlings can blow up, and all of a sudden, them detonating, randomly doesn't even matter anymore because they're all going to fall into a line as long as they're in a hallway.
So Pip and Genos, the last lock-ins for Envy, healing potential. And this is going to be their round out with the Pip, Genos, the Barrack, and the Khan. You're putting a lot into the aspect of Buck, but he has so many supporting elements from the rest of this draft.
There's a lot, I think, that can go right and a lot that can go wrong here. Envy, again, as long as they play this properly and G2 doesn't tear it apart, then I think, the pieces line up for them. Buck can do pretty much whatever he wants and feel safe about it. There's nowhere that I think he can get away from that healing, so he has to be careful as to where exactly Willow's going to be throwing that dead zone. Where are you standing? And more importantly, who is he targeting? Because there's going to be certain people that it's just not going to be worth the time versus what he could do elsewhere.
I thought we were going to get that NA
baited.
flavor for a second because they mentioned it earlier. We've seen the Victor a little bit in NA during the split so far, but it's actually going to be the Xin. So want a bit of that mobility. Draft, G2, Envy.
I'm honestly feeling G2 a little bit more on this one. I think Willow and Xin, Furia, and Inara and Cassie is just a better lineup to have together. Xin and Willow specifically do a lot to shut down what Envy have picked up.
Envy is still up within this set, just not by as much as they were previously. So it's time for game number 6. Let's go.
I would say it's do or die for G2 at this point in time. I mean, that last game was do or die, but I kind of feel like if they're not able to at least push this to 7, there's going to be a lot of deflation on the side of G2 and their personalities.
I agree. And I know there was a lot of conversation about the way that G2 are and always have been, about how hyped they get. And a lot of that conversation was actually kind of around Wardoom, to make sure that he was still in it, to make sure that when things were going well, hype him up when we can, or else it could end up being a bit of a drag if we don't get ourselves pumped up. And I'm seeing a difference just in the mentality of G2 today. They don't feel the need to really pop off super hard, go up to the window and start screaming across at their opponents when things are going well. And again, granted, things haven't been going super well for them in this set, but even in that victory, they were pretty gracious, just fist bumps all around.
Very much
sort
so.
of the standard stuff we're expecting to see from them. So I'm wondering, how highs will the high be this time around, and how lows will the low be?
I guess we'll have to take a look, as the highs are definitely going to be in the favor of Evil Eye, who's likely not going to give up any of this high ground anytime soon. The only person who can really convert onto her would be the Buck. And that's going to be a very tall stretch in committal if he wants to try to supplant Willow from that high ground, especially with Cassie being down there. Rock Monkey going to give a go on to Zin, but a lot of support from that high ground still. 72% for G2, who have the numbers. Random Noob's able to take down one. They need to find a second, I would say, if they want to keep this point just more securely. A great self-healing coming through. And even
Rock's
from the high
lucky
ground,
he's hitting these headshots, man, or else this fight will be very different now. Gets another big heal here. But Rock Monkey's constantly been healed by Genos for this entire fight, so he is just as tanky.
Yeah, the con is here, though, and that spells even more danger when it comes to facing up against that Buck on that little overlook area and that little platform. As you can continue to see, health pools go up, health pools go down, mostly in favor of the side for Team Envy as they get themselves back up now to 60%. Random Noob able to find Cutie. That's a big fight down on the mainstay of the point. Frontliner should be in. Ooh, nice Commander's grab, able to just nearly reach eye drop bodies before that range expired, and now it's 93%. And nobody from G2, I don't think I can really touch this with those frontliners being down. Again, that's the problem with the solo Inara. She goes down, and who's going to touch point?
It's been pretty stalemated around, and Team Envy doing a fairly good job at dealing with eye drop bodies, as well as Dosup's. I believe he's just sitting 0-2 at this point. I'm not sure if he's been able to frag anyone out yet, but this is the first time he's had to be off of front lines yet today. 0-1 he is going to sit, but everyone essentially 0-1 on G2 Esports. Vex the only one able to pick up a kill.
Evil Eye going into Faith Flight, but not really finding much for it as everybody just escapes to that underneath area. Overpowered comes out, looking to take down Cuskitty. No good place to shoot her off, though. We'll just put her into a wall, and that will actually bode well for the Inara as she stays alive throughout all of it. Healing comes out behind. Dosups will eventually be taken down, but again, Evil Eye up top has got Random Noob right in front, and will serve that one up for a kill, make that 2 as Mr. Hayes also drops away. Rock Monkey now in a very compromising spot, but wants to push forward and make his life worth it, but the Pyre Strike will provide just a little bit of peel. Still on the chase, but Evil Eye is here to help. Can they do enough damage? The Nightshade comes through, so no healing from the bulk up. Rock Monkey will drop in a very staggered fashion. A minute 20, and the payload will surely start to retreat back just slightly.
Honestly, I feel like so much of this game is going to ride on Evil Eye and Dosups. Dosups has to be able to shift gears onto one of, just like we talked about Bugsy with Trogos, you can talk about Dosups with Cassie. He's a very OG veteran Cassie player, and he needs to be able to step up now to find some big shots just to soften things up. Eye Drop Bodies is going to have a difficult time getting into any of these matchups against Envy and 100-0ing them. He needs to be able to just roll through and get a couple of quick cleanup kills.
Yeah, and I think beyond that, he just needs to kind of feint the pressure one side or the other and allow Dosups and Evil Eye to do most of the damage work. I don't think you're going to see a very star-studded performance out of the Zin here. This is mostly a pick that seems to be more distracting than anything else. And to be honest, he's doing a good job of getting in, getting out, getting in, getting out. Let Dosups and Evil Eye stay in the backline for free and put out the most of the damage, and that's what's happening. Although Rock Monkey will again take that face-up challenge against Eye Drop Bodies and look back towards the ferry, but they are able to find Vex. Dosups also low, will drop away, and now Cutie is left wondering how he's going to maneuver his way out of this. The answer is he'll just go back to base and respawn with the rest of his team as we have 10 seconds left till overtime. The payload continues to move.
Great moves there from Random Noob. As soon as Rock Monkey gets in, gets a couple of pop shots, but largely has to pop his cooldowns and get out. That is his time to shine. Once everything major has been used to and absorbed by this Buck, he just rolls in and gets a couple of easy, quick kills.
This is a very dangerous spot. As you can see, the high ground all controlled by the team in blue as Envy do pop the Evil Mojo and get one. That's on Cutie. And now Mr. Hayes finds Vex. So frontliner and support down. The guillotine was also used, and Rock Monkey will flick his shot right on over and find the kill. And again, that's going to be, I think, the do or die situation when it comes to pushing for both teams, as you cannot let your opponent get that top high ground. There's no way for anyone else to get up there and contest.
My goodness, how quickly it all falls apart for G2 there. And the guillotine even used as well, like during the slow-mo, so very off the mark with that ultimate. In more ways than one, may have been trying to just get his way back to the payload, but Body's unable to find any footing. And that was the pick for me that I was just like, I don't see it. I mean, guillotine, sure. You're going to get a couple of frags here and there with that. But at the same time, I don't really blame him because we were deep in the draft on Timbermill. We don't see Timbermill very often, and everything useful was kind of banned out. I could have seen a Shaw, to be honest.
Or maybe an Androxus if you're feeling frosty.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's the Xin that has to make something happen. He's got Cauterize 2, which is at least a silver lining. Dome Shield being used early in this engagement. Seedlings right in front of Rock Monkey, who will use it bulk up right in the dead center of a dead zone, so no healing in return, but Generals will help get that health pulled back up, and eye drop Bodies again, net shot and slowed, will be forced into the billow, and Rock Monkey wants an angle, but not able to find anything. It's dead zone or Seedlings, dead zone or Seedlings. But regardless, again, here's Cuss Cutie getting overpowered again, and will they get the kill this time? That's the big question mark, and it needs to happen, but it won't. A dead zone right on top of Random Noob, who was trying to self-heal, of course, will be negated completely, and now G2 with numbers and the capture boost looking to get this one back to a 2-1.
Beautifully constructed here by G2. They get the initial pick, and they slow it down. They get a clean disengage, get everyone healed back up, pop an ultimate here, an ultimate there, and before you know it, that's pretty much a 100 to 20 or so % capture for them. Very, very cleanly executed.
Look at this positioning. Again, this high ground is so important. That barricade's going to do nothing for Utolki as there's a double kill for Evil Eye. Could he make it possibly more? The Buck Wild comes out looking for the kill, but a nice flutter just around the side, and Evil Eye will survive. And takes down Random Noob, I believe, as well for his trouble. Rock Monkey, though, will get some value out of the ultimate. He takes down Eye Drop Bodies once again. Now Cuss Cutie, the new target. But again, that Mother's Grace is allowing him to tank up all of those shots.
Can we look at the talent screen real quick? I want to triple check that this is Guillotine because the way that Eye Drop Bodies has actually been used. Okay, so it looks like he did go with Yomi. I was going to say he's using his ultimate a lot for mobility, and that's not something you do when you're running Guillotine. Your entire kit rides on getting kills with your ultimate. So he's going to have that poke from range there, and I think Spite without Guillotine is probably the worst ultimate in the game. So he's able to just use that as a dash and get that 30% refund and be on his way.
1:23 on the clock from the team in red, G2. Kind of forced back into the middle portion of the map, and my God, Random Noob is just hitting shot and shot again at long range. Keeping Dose-Ups at bay, at least marginally. Now Evil Eye, the new focus, and one more shot will do it in the weightless. We'll do a 50-50 grind on the railing, but not find any shots to connect Edwards. Now, that's an instant delete onto Cuss Cutie, using Evil Mojo in response with the Catalyst as well.
What do you do in that situation? Cuss just probably takes his hands off the keyboard.
Yeah,
okay.
All right.
Guess I'll die now.
Rock Monkey also low, but finds a headshot somehow from low to high onto Evil Eye, so he'll sustain his life and continue to get a little bit more aggressive. He's got Vex in front of him. Wings of Wrath used. A little bit of chip damage there, and the Pyre Strike will just push him back slightly.
Yeah, Rock's got to be careful here. Used another recovery straight into the dead zone there, and that's not what you want to see when you're running bulk up bulk. The entirety of your success is going to hinge on just being able to out-sustain other people. Random Noob flies up into the air, and Bodies is just covering the map so much more effectively this round. He has been everywhere. Dose-Ups gets a frag and escapes with minimal HP. These are the lucky breaks that G2 need to get themselves back in the set.
You got to get up high, though, if you're G2. You got to get this high ground on that left-hand side. Otherwise, it's just going to be Tolki putting down those turrets and keeping himself up there. Cuss Cutie on the point where he should be, trying to sustain some damage. Rock Monkey will be slowed, but will jump away from it. Tolki trying to contest now up front, but he's going to have to use a Dome Shield just to stay up. He's still not even getting that much healing, to be completely candid. Now finally getting closer to full HP. The Pyre Strike coming out to try to gain some space up front, but Cuss Cutie is able to keep himself nice and healed. The Seedling is right on top of the objective as well, but now Rock Monkey's got low HP targets in front of him. Finds one, looks for a second, does a little 360 pirouette, not able to find the second at all, but Random Noob and Rock Monkey able to combine for the last three in there, so it will be a successful defense for Envy.
And we didn't see too much of it, but really the critical fight there was up on the high ground. Likely Evil Eye versus Rock and Random Noob there, being able to box out Bodies. Basically both of the backliners for both teams. Whoever wins that high ground, pretty much, as you saw in the first round, is going to win the round overall. But the defense there for Envy will mean a defensive point as well, and they will move 3-1 ahead in this game.
It's a big moment here as well, just because of the ultimates that are available, really, for both teams. Talk about execution threshold and finding full value. So far, there have been a couple of misses, but for the most part, a lot of really big ultimates coming up for both teams, specifically Random Noob able to instantly delete Cuss Cutie on 2 separate occasions that we've seen at least.
Can we look at Cuss's loadout? I just want to see if he's running crowd control reduction at this point. He's been killed so fast, it's hard to see, and he's only taken 56%, which is fine, right? Because, I mean, Evil Mojo has that CC floor anyway. You're not getting any value from that 5th point.
Gets instantly deleted again by Random Noob, finding again that front liner will drop away. Dosups now wants to take a charge.
Come on, Doe.
And find it, but oh god, that self-healing from Random Noob is just too much. And now Doe's in a really bad spot. They're going to turn around and take him down. 27% for Envy, now counting to above 30. They do have the numbers, and this is a good play from Rock. Get Evil Eye off this high ground, try to stay here as long as possible, but you can't fall up here. You can't fall up here at all, otherwise you're going to get this turned on you very quickly.
Wow, gets a heal actually from Khan up through the wall as well, and Cuss. He's been spotted. Inara's great escape, unable to be made here. She pops the earthen guard. She's just trying to get down onto the objective here.
Punished.
Manages to get the touch off, but it's not enough.
The Inflame was also used in combination with the Faith Light from Evil Eye. He's able to find 2 kills, and they're actually on the both frontliners, so now the damage dealers from G2 really need to take the reins. Stand on point. Find one more kill if you can, but nobody's looking at Mr. Hayes until just recently. The dead zone's there, trying to stay away from him as long as possible, but he does miss a healing flask. 1 HP, though, as I drop bodies. He's able to get the kill, and look at that Evil Eye from the high ground, able to snipe down one more. So G2 down, but not out yet.
They managed to bring it back here. Now Rubu's very distracted. A lot of cooldowns used, but he's CC immune, so the spite, it goes right through him, and Bodies is still confident in this 1v1. He'd rather lose his life and grab the payload.
Liking it. G2 able to find themselves another point. Rubu has to work his way backwards through the full value of that dead zone. He will be able to do so and live. But again, Evil Eye in this high ground. That's been the big story for me, is he's been up here so often and for so free. It's just absolutely free real estate, although Rock Monkey able to find eye drop bodies again in the exchange.
That's free real estate, as they like to say. And 2 minutes on the clock now in game number 6 on Timber Mill. This one's going closer to the distance than Fnatic Na'Vi were able to get. And either of these teams that makes it through, I think it's going to be an interesting set, just because these 2 teams, or North America, these 2 regions, I should say, don't seem to be prioritizing each other's picks. So it's going to be one of those where it feels like everyone gets whatever they want.
Faith Light being used. No Inflamed yet. Evil Eye falling very low, but again, just fades away. Looks like James Harden at the line. Trying to find Rock Monkey, but gosh, he's just able to stay alive for so long. Again, if he is able to use that recovery before and or after that dead zone, he's so good. Oh, net shot from downtown, able to find one. Now looking for Vex. One more shot will do it, and I think Vex knows his life was all but spent. A couple of emotes coming out from the side of Envy.
Quiet time now as G2 have a couple of ultimates online. The Inflame, the Spite, and the Scout. Frankly, not a very impactful lineup in and of itself. It's going to really have to be enabled by someone else here. Envy have a very impactful lineup here. They have the Buck Wild, they have the Overpower, the Dome Shield, the Evil Mojo, things that are probably all going to be good for at least 1 kill apiece.
Rock Monkey in a very good spot here to come down, but Eyedrop Bodies will contest a good play here, but he gets punished completely by Rubu and Rock Monkey, so now the collapse can happen. You can see Cuss Cutie's trying to run away, knows exactly who's above him. Looks like the impasse wall will be enough to gain a little bit of separation, but Tolkien is able to find the contest just around the corner. Rock Monkey now wants to get through. Rubu will just give a little bit of a bounce so that he can get that battle shout onto Rock Monkey, but Evil Eye will turn him aside pretty quickly. 20 seconds, and again, at this point, it would be a very ambitious stretch to get this payload up to a 3-3, but Rubu also low will be dropped away.
Slightly missed time, the battle shout there. Could have immune to all that seedling damage, but is going to eat it and die instead. 8 seconds on the clock here. G2 Esports taking the long road through Timber Mill here. A defense here would not result in the point for Envy. You can't win off the defense. G2 or Envy are going to have to win off an offense at some point.
Evil Eye wants the high ground. He's got Cassie here with him, but Random's found 2 already. Dosups will take down Mr. Hayes, though, so they can find some frontline pressure that might be good. Cuss does drop away. Evil Eye finds one more, but it's just not enough.
If G2 could have just held on like another 10 seconds there,
if that.
Evil Eye, man, he would have been able to rip that fight wide open.
That's the tough part when you go into a solo frontline Inara, especially on this map. It's very difficult for any damage dealer or support to contest the payload because of the fact that you are putting yourself in a funnel of damage. It's just a chasm of people looking down on you and just raining hellfire. Speaking of raining down hellfire, look at those two high ground controllers, Evil Eye and Random Noob on top of the charts.
Yeah, 14-5 for Rock Monkey, 12-8 for Random Noob. Catalyst Pip, such a nice pairing with Luminary Genos as well, as he's hitting upwards of 1,000 damage. Quick charge on the ultimate as well, just at base and with morale boost. All 10 ultimates are available here. Rejuvenate's coming out across the board for most everyone in this game. Random Noob and Mr. Hayes, the only two not to pick it up. 15 minutes on the game clock, 3-2 here. Envy, one capture would end the set. G2 just trying to fight for their tournament life.
It's a scout in combination up with Evil Eye here in the air with the Fade Flame, looking for some damage.
Nice
but
angle.
Able to find it just narrowly as Dozup's help. Seedlings right on top of Khan.
Oh, baby.
Oh, that's a good play right there. Looking for more. Needs to try to find a way to get the damage on his Tolkien. Wants to come and contest, but his eye drop Body's finally getting involved. One more shot will do. Body's put that away. There are ladies present. Able to take down two of them. Looking for a third. Could this be the triple? Oh, he needs to find one more shot, and Billow will keep him alive, but chasing. Wow, what a heal.
Dear God, isn't that deflating to see? Every time he peeks back around the corner, he's full HP. Two things there key in that fight, though, for G2 is what appears to just be phenomenal communication to tell Evil Eye where Rock Monkey was, because he just starts, you know, popping off through this little window and gets these little splash damage numbers, but it's enough to take down Rock Monkey, as well as, I don't think this was planned, but it worked out that way where the seedling popped right as the overpower wind-up animation started. So unfortunately, Khan was forced to eat all of that damage and made for another easy kill for Evil Eye. So two things going very well for the Willow.
And it's funny to see once things start going the way of G2, how quickly Xin can start to go off. Once there are low targets that he can chase, there is nobody on the field right now better than capitalizing kills than Xin is. And iDrop Bodies absolutely punishes with those nearly 3 kills. And now the high ground in control for G2. This is what went also so far for Envy in their first push. Whoa, instantly deleted those. Tolkien's able to find a kill, make that a second exchange as Evil Eye also falls in with Cuss Cutie going down. That'll be the end of this charge from G2.
Where did that come from?
No idea.
Envy just obliterated G2 there without a moment's notice. Couple of ultimates used for it. It looked like the Evil Mojo as well as the Buck Wild. 77% on the time and space there. G2 have a couple more things in the tank. And they're right on the edge of striking distance here, which means if they win one more fight, they will be able to push this payload through for the victory. And if they're able to bring this set all the way back to a Game 7, you have to wonder what that's going to do to Envy's morale.
And G2 has the veteranship and experience to take these sets to the distance and then capitalize beyond that. iDrop Bodies finding Random Noob. Rubu's going to use the battle shot just to try to stay alive. Oh, but the teleporter just in the right spot at the right time, and Rubu will be punished. iDrop Bodies did fall in that exchange, but Dose-ups and Evil Eye keeping the damage alive for him, and now Tolkien's in trouble, will fall. If they can get some more high ground control, this might just go for G2.
There it is. The disengage is good to move Mr. Hayes even further away from relevance in this fight, but at the same time also to safety and also creating enough space for G2 to force a Game 7. Envy were looking pretty cocky there. Maybe have counted their chickens a little bit as the veterans of North America, the only North American team to claim an international victory here, are now taking things the distance.
And Smiles. That's at least the energy we expect to see, is at least some kind of personality. Smiles coming out from Evil Eye. Again, he had a monster game on Willow, my goodness. But I think you have to give, you know, some kudos to iDrop Bodies as well, who was sitting in the, on the bench essentially, waiting for the moment to go.
Right.
He finally gets it, he converts. That's a big reason they win that point, and beyond that, how they continue to push it forward. Really good, resilient gameplay from G2.
He went from doing really very little in the first couple of rounds to just finding ways to be useful, and that is not easy to do on Timbermill with Xin.
Yep. Going the distance, North America versus North America. Not done yet, as we still have a PPL Finals to contest for after this. But Gabby and Gore, break us down as we try to finish this one out.
G2 still in this. They're just going 1 point at a time. Another point. Oh, we dropped one here. It's okay. All the way down to the 4-3.
I mean, they're keeping it incredibly close, which is kind of what I expected out of this set. This is actually how I expected the first set to go more than anything. This one has become a lot more contested than it was, and you can kind of tell, again, a team that thrives off momentum. This is like the perfect time to start doing well, where it's like, okay, well, we were down. We have to win 3 in a row in order to make it. We've already got 2 of them.
And we've mentioned Dose-ups' Cassie play in the past, just because of the fact that even though for a while we've been accustomed to seeing him in the frontline role, he has a reputation on these other picks as well. So it's a pleasure when we get to see him and back on this Cassie.
And it just, again, looked solid. It was one of those things that, with the way G2 had drafted, they kind of had a few win conditions. Cassie doing well really helps augment the two others. Like, as long as she's doing well, every single one of those is still on par. It's just like, okay, well, what's Zen doing? What's Willow doing? Once Willow started doing well, especially during that last capture point where it's just like dead zones shutting down, seedlings shutting down, you were set up perfectly. So everything they had for all three of their damage champions was pretty much exactly the way they needed it.
And I Drop Body is using his ultimate more for mobility purposes on this map than others, because despite unless you're bringing that guillotine, it's not always going to hit in the tremendous way that you want it to. So if you can get that, get the charge back on it, then at least it sets you up in the position to use your other abilities a bit more effectively.
And the survivability that he had throughout all of that, that was one of those key instances where it's just like, I'm incredibly low, counter into Billow, into the teleporter, and just a little bit of mobility. That's all you need to get out of there. And once you're safe, you heal back up, you come back into the fight, you continue having that presence. And again, because of Timbermill, and the height, like all the differences in the size of the buildings, whether you're on the second floor, third floor, ground floor, wherever you are, you need to use that to traverse. So being able to kind of augment that ult for that was just a big play from them to be able to find that success.
So you were excited for the Willow pick going into this draft.
Yeah.
Did Evil Eye live up to your expectations?
Yeah, at first it was a little bit more shaky, and I think that just goes for pretty much all of G2, just a little bit shakier than I think they had wanted to. But the thing about it is when you do have any sort of healers, even just one, Willow's going to be helpful. But when you add in Khan, when you add in somebody who has another heal on there, she becomes valuable just because she can shut down so much. And it lasts for so long. That's something that we were actually talking about earlier, where it's just, you just kind of have to hit your dead zone in the general area. As long as they step into it once, that's going to be a few seconds of time that they just cannot heal up. And when you augment that with your seedling damage and your in-hand damage, it's only 500 a pop, nowhere near what you're seeing like out of Drogo's. But it adds up over time.
And even though there are many players that can play the blasters, Evil Eye is usually the one that hops right onto that. So if Willow's coming back into popular, I don't know if she was ever really there from the start, but if she's coming into popularity, then that means you have to take it upon yourself to pick that up within your rotation.
And that's one of the things, again, I think Fnatic kind of showcased what she could do. And while it seemed at the time like it was like, okay, well, haha, look, it's Willow, they also were like, but seriously, look, it's Willow. And since then, you've seen her a lot more out of a lot of these top teams. I think that's something that a lot of these teams have put into their pocket.
Yep.
Just because, again, that damage, that anti-heal can give you so much in just 1 second of a team fight that it could change the course of the events.
And I think over the split in general, people have been prioritizing anything within the Champions kit or the potential loadout that can free up that space within your actual purchasing ability. So you see Leon bring Death and Taxes so that you have that anti-heal. You see things like cooldown reduction worked into many of the loadouts of many of the champs so that you don't have to go for that Chronos. And then here you have an ability on Willow that is anti-heal, so it opens you up for more possibilities.
And again, a lot of the cards they have, I actually noticed, I can't remember which card, if it was Just I think Just Believe was being run and Twilight wasn't being run. There's the two cards. Twilight is the one that lets your dead zone come up a little bit more often, but Just Believe is, hey, you get an elimination, 50% back on your cooldowns, which gives you Seedling just constantly being thrown, and Dead Zone constantly being thrown out there, so you can kind of snowball yourself into a fight. And that's kind of where I think we see it, similar to Shaolin, where it's just like, as long as you're getting kills, you're golden.
And the thing about Seedlings and Dead Zone, they both have such great area control because of the nature of the actual abilities. So especially on maps that are a bit more congested where you can push people aside, similar to how you might use a Poppy Bomb and things like that on the Bomb King in those congested areas, just in a bit of a different effect.
It's just control, and I think that's kind of what we ended up seeing during that last draft. There was a lot of spatial control coming down from G2. Willow would control kind of the open areas that you would want to contest if you want to control the point, and then you'd have Zen go off on the side, control some of the more narrow areas just to make sure that Buck was contested, that he couldn't get where he needed to go. And so it was kind of Willow would drive them into the corner, and then Zen would keep them cornered for a little bit and make sure that things went their way. And that's kind of one of the things I think Envy have to look forward into, not only the next map, but the next draft. If they go somewhere that is a little bit more unconventional, say like Ice Mines, you have to be aware of that to make sure that you don't mess up.
And Envy will end up having the map pick for game number 7 because they're coming off of that loss. You're in the bottom of the barrel of the map, so at this point, and we've already seen the Timber Mill come out, Ascension Peak, so You've already seen one Frosty place as well, Frozen Guard. And doesn't leave very many options, which means there's not going to be much of a veil to unveil for either of these teams.
Yeah, this is actually going to be an interesting one because I don't want to say too much about Ice Mines. I don't know how either of these teams feel about it, but I do know that G2 loves Splitstone Quarry, which I think is still, it's still on the block. So if you choose that as Envy, you kind of have to recognize that while you might be adept at this map, you are kind of going into G2's territory.
And that's the thing you have to consider as well. What are you comfortable on? Where are you best? And then where is the opponent? And Ice Mines is going to be the last map of the set. It all comes down to one game, everyone.
And honestly, that feels right. I think this is a very, very...
Is Gore saying that it's right to bring the Ice Mines?
Well, not Ice Mines, but just you go to 7 games between these two teams. I expect we'll probably end up actually seeing this one go 3-3. Partially because it's Ice Mines, but partially just because the way these two have been playing, they are not ready to give up. Even in Envy, even though they've just lost 2, they still have that fighting spirit. You can kind of see it in their faces with the way things are going on camera.
It's tough on either perspective. Either, oh man, we have to win a 3rd in a row. It gets harder and harder each time. Or, oh, we just won 2. Let's just add another one under our belt.
I might have to take back what I said about the fighting spirit. That looks kind of dejected, at least on 3 faces there. Rubu and Rock Monkey specifically, not looking too amped about this game.
I think that's what happens when you expel a lot of energy, though, on the victories. And on the opposite end, you're like, well, I need to take a little bit of a breather.
And I mean, you're looking at this, and this is not only Game 7 of this set. They have to play another best of 7 right after this, and there's 2 kind of edges to that. I mean, this has gone 7 games, so you're going to be exhausted, but you're also warmed up. So there's kind of two edges to that blade.
The North American region's pretty scrappy.
They'll keep going till the end.
Yeah, whichever one ends up making it through. And it really is hard to tell because you look at the first half, and even with G2 getting these victories, you think, yeah, maybe they'll pick up another game or something, but Envy's just looking really good. But these last couple games, pulling it through in the clutch and able to secure those victories for G2, they're not going to let this one go without a fight.
Makoa going to be able to come in, but again, Fernando, I think, has been... If you're not going to get... I want to say Inara. I think Fernando is probably the next best one to go. I think actually I'd put Fernando above Inara in most instances, and G2 seemed to be thinking the same way again earlier. They had Fernando Furia, and that is just deadly to have together alone because of what they can provide for their team.
I think it also comes down to style, where Nendo with a bit more of an aggressive comp, or you can have him alongside Inara so he can take up that role. Or if you go with someone like Inara, that standing potential, that can be difficult. During Timber Mill, for instance, your frontliners are very vulnerable on the point. You had to leave a lot into Cuss's hands on that Inara, but it's going to go over to the side of Envy.
Double frontline for Envy, which I think is good specifically for Ice Mines just because this is such a long walk back to the point. That usually, there's some maps where it's like, okay, we lose our front line, we fall back for a little bit, then we get back into the fight. This is probably one of the maps where you really need someone who can come in and try to take that role. And Nara and Mako are both going to be incredibly adept at setting up this fight. But G2 don't seem too off-put by that. Again, having Fernando is going to set you up well. And Willow's been working brilliantly for them so far, and I think she can do a lot of the same here.
Might as well go for it again. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I like the combination when you see the Makoa and the Inara for that double front line, because Makoa with his hook can bring the fight to them. Inara doesn't have a lot of mobility, but can still offer some power, especially with lockdown. So whether you're both occupying the objective or just trying to close a bit of that gap, and someone that can be just as really impactful in the actual fight themselves, like Makoa, takes away a bit of that slower feeling side of frontliners.
And this draft from Envy altogether feels a lot better to me, because last game it very much felt like, okay, we have Buck. Everyone else help him try to do his best. If he's not able to accomplish that, we don't really have a win condition here. Okay, we've got Bomb King, we've got Makoa, we've got Zin. We have things to set up each other. We have things to make sure we can find success as long as we all perform. And Makoa being able to hook like Willow out of the sky, hook Cassie off of the balcony, being able to set that up so it's a guaranteed kill or a guaranteed spot for someone else on the team, I think makes it a lot easier for them to have multiple win conditions.
If anyone's going to bust out the Moji today, it would be G2, but I'm not going to hold my breath until I actually see color within that slot. We thought the same thing with the Victor earlier. These are all flavors that, if you've been keeping up with the actual split, you've seen them pop up once in a while. So that's the interesting thing. Part of it. It's not a complete just troll.
Depending on who you watch play Moji, she kind of plays like Ruckus. At least on console, I'm thinking of Wonderful specifically. Pretty much plays Ruckus and Moji in the exact same style. So I'll give it to him.
You want to give the draft over to G2 and V?
I'm feeling G2 here. Honestly, I think Willow, Furia, Fernando sets them up for success.
All right. Game number 7, everybody, is the last one of the set to find out who from North America will be making it to the Grand Finals.
All comes down to a best of 1, and well, I have to say, first and foremost, this might be the most effective map we might see Xin on all day. So maybe for once we'll see a pop-off Xin performance.
Poor guy.
I know, he's really just been sitting literally in that 5th spot like, I'll have my moment, coach, I swear. Just give me a chance.
It's going to come down a lot to, I think, unless the dead zone, if the dead zoning is on point by G2, I think they have a shot here. But I actually like NB's comp here a significant amount more, assuming healing gets through at some point, which you have to imagine it will. You know, it's a long cooldown, that dead zone. I think it's 15 seconds at base or something like that. Evil Eye's going to be doing his best to reduce it down, but he's not going to be able to stop it all.
And I had to agree with Gormizer very strongly on the point that using that hook from Rubu to pull people out of those windows and down onto the point, again, you have to connect. That's the biggest thing about Makoa. He is a very powerful pick, but a lot rides on your ability to hit the dredge anchor. We'll see how that all plays out as they start to inch their way towards point. And it will be Rubu actually going the high ground and around to the platform with Rock Monkey. They want to find the first pull on to Dosubs, but he'll just narrowly avoid it. Nice shell shield there to keep those seedlings away. Mr. Hayes will actually contribute some damage there as well, throwing a couple of venomous spits out, and nobody on point yet.
That's the first frag going on the high ground, though, for Team Envy. Meanwhile, Toki has been able to hold off the rest of G2 with no healing, because you saw Mr. Hayes just basically pocketing up Rubu, making sure this Makoa stayed healthy. So good on Toki, and now he's got the wall that's just going to completely shut off the main choke point.
This is the power of having not only Inara, but also having Bomb King with the two of them can completely take away this part of the map just by themselves, just by throwing out impasse walls and in-hands and grumpy bombs. And meanwhile, Rubu's on the right-hand side, but Mr. Hayes does fall. So with no support here, it's going to have to come down to a play that someone needs to find a kill, but
he must have been on point or something.
Had to have been.
I don't know. I don't see unless he made himself available. There's no way Bodies gets a weird angle from where he was standing.
Yeah, that's a big mistake for Mr. Hayes. Needed to stay alive, but it is 90%. Dosub's also falling low, but they can't find the kill. Look at this. Meanwhile, Cuss Cutie, the Fernando, is all the way through the back line. And to be honest, if they're going to get this kill, they need to find it sooner rather than later so they can get back to the point, because there's a lot of area controlled from G2. Even without Cuss being there, they still can't hold this as just 4 players.
Man.
Scout will come out, and Rubu's going to have to back up from that 96%, although the spike does come out on point, but iDrop Bodies takes him down, and G2 wins the first point.
They're holding control of the space and this map with damage, not necessarily with the cooldowns like walls and warders, fields, and grumpy bombs and things like that. Things are landing for G2 Esports, and not much in the way is really connecting there for Team Envy. I didn't see many hooks connecting, and that was going to be a big win condition. It always is with Makoa, right? He doesn't just win on his own. You have to hit the hard skill shot.
And I don't think we've seen more than maybe one pull, which was first blood onto iDrop Bodies so far. So that will be the game inside of the game here. Can the Makoa get going? Evil Eye will pop the Fae Flight, although not gaining much elevation yet. Just wants the left to right mobility, which will be successful to keep Tolki off the high ground, at least marginally so on the right-hand side. Doesn't want to get too close to that Makoa pull. A very large hitbox that the Fairy can be pulled from. Random Noob will have to back up after that dead zone connects, and he'll move from right to left, looking for some upper high ground control of his own. Tolki will try to support that. Dosub's in a very awkward corner, but will be able to advance out.
He's lucky Random Noob had to reload. I'll tell you that right now. He would have gotten ripped in half otherwise. 2 kills come through, 3 kills for Envy. That looks like it just might be the full reset here. And you know, you got to just talk about the way this set has gone. Team Envy being up 3-1 over G2 Esports with, I thought the set basically wrapped up on Ascension Peak. I was standing up. I was getting my headset cord all ready to be shown on camera. I was ready to go. And then just out of nowhere, G2 were able to bring not just that game back, but then they bring Timber Mill. And now here they are on Ice Mines in Game 7, looking much more jovial in their player cams and much more ready to win and go up against Fnatic.
A lot of obstacle to go through. Ice Mines, not exactly the easiest map to establish dominance. Random Noob will try to do so by using the King Bomb on this high ledge, this little ice plateau, but we'll think the better of going around the corner. We'll
the
just
zoning ult.
Yeah, detonate it early. We'll push players back, but is that really enough to gain the full defense? Rock Monkey is up top looking for some pressure, and here's the Inflamed as well coming out and able to whirl right on through and deal a lot of damage. The Hexafire does come out from the low ground, though. Can they find the kills? Looks like 3 of them will go the way of G2. Rock Monkey's nowhere near to contest this. He needs to get full and come back late, if at all. Can anyone even touch the point at this point? No one will. I was saying Makoa is not up yet. He's not able to get spawned in time, and again, zoning out the Xin will allow G2 to go up by 2 points.
That's one of those moments that's just decided by one shot or one ability. If that swing connects through onto Cusscutie and kills him, or if he had just a little bit more damage on eye drop bodies, he would have killed the Cassie outright earlier. But Rock Monkey, unfortunately, unable to get anything done there, and he ends up taking an L as his team goes down 2-0 on Ice Mines. G2, my goodness, momentum isn't a strong enough word to describe what they've got going for them right now.
Couldn't have accurately said it more myself. You just kind of get the feeling that G2 is going to pull this one back right now, especially with the start that they have. The itemization is very heavily going to be in favor of G2, and that's crucial in these mid-game fights. So you can take a look, the Chronos 2 already for Vex, a couple instances of Master Riding being invested in for the frontliners as well as some cauterizes, so a lot of versatility in the builds. And Doseups, look how fast he gets in this backline, says this is my area. You want to try to take away our high ground, I'm going to take away yours, as Doseups takes down Mr. Hayes again very early, and Rubu gets his bell rung by all those headshots, and Doseups with 2 is going to continue to push forward, and that's going to be enough to zone and get some early capture percent for G2.
Shift a Pyre Strike, that had to have been what connected on the Haze there. There's nothing else that could have stunned him there, and that's an easy first blood clap for Doseups. G2 with another 60% lead on the objective. Envy are near, but they are not in the best spot to just blindly run into this point. G2 are set up and ready to receive the assault.
Oh, but Cusp will get spited on, but a big hole coming through once again, able to keep him alive, and now Rock Monkey says, where do I go from here? It needs Rubu to hit something. There's an Inflame coming out, and another Dredge Anchor misses. Back into the Ancient Rage just to try to stay alive. Wants to force himself forward onto Vex. Will be able to find one. Can he find the second?
Wow.
Not quite able to, as Cusscutie is able to turn and save Eye Drop Bodies, who was at 65 HP, and that's enough for G2 to get the second point. It's a 3-0 lead.
Wow. That was close, but no Sakaar there for the poor turtle. Rubu almost brings it back in a big way. Tolki finds 2, but very low impact kills at this point. 3-0, 2:10 on the clock. Determination surfing. I feel like if he would have had, what's that card? Rampage for movement speed on Elim, maybe he could have done something with that. It's a hard not life.
And another hook just goes wide once again. Rubu not finding the success on what we consider to be one of the biggest power picks in Paladins so far.
He looked just meh. Yeah, I'm just watching the player cams because these fights are inconsequential in my opinion. Talking, screaming, almost like nonchalantly just talking about the way these fights are going. Doe's always pretty laser focused, but even he's getting involved in the conversation now, and everyone on Envy just looks deflated. Can't show any of their player cams because they're all dead.
Yeah. This is the game that I think Doseups really needed. He, back in the fall, had been toting one of the biggest win ratios on the Ruckus and not find much success the first time around, and now it's coming online and it's paying off in big ways. Random Noob, though, has a nice angle on the Cuss. The shield will be marginally successful, but there's too much splash damage.
I think Cuss thought Doe had that angle covered.
Agreed.
And he did not. And so he did not.
Learning.
So 57 on the clock here. Envy, a little breath of hope there. Pyre Strike's connecting. Some serious reads of the cards here. Vex getting aggressive with the Furia here, and he's going to hit the Inflame as well as G2 begin their roll. Cuss doesn't even give Mr. Hayes the time of day.
This is very puzzling for me of why Envy was pushing so far forward. Yeah, you had the stagger, but once you weren't able to follow up with the Ruckus that was trying to escape, Now it's an opportunity where G2 can possibly put this through for a 4-0 on Ice Mines. Are you kidding me? Random New channeling up his ultimate. Needs to find some conversion, but wow, the big Immortal comes right through. Plus the Hexafire. Call it a TKO as it looks like it might just be G2 with the full comeback. They need to finish off the last couple of kills. Tolki drops down and G2 get themselves the comeback. A 4-3 win and the number 1 seed prevails.
Oh my goodness, them boys are feeling themselves. They have had 7 games of practice now for Fnatic, who will soon sit across from them, and Envy fall flat on their face after being basically wrapped up here, up 3-1. They choke it all the way back, and now 7 games behind us. G2 will come out on top.
And you can see Rubu is not pleased.
How can you be?
You can't. There's no way. That one is one that will stick with them, I think, for the rest of the week, at least to start their week. I don't think you just shake that one off and say reset. There are a lot of moments where that very well could have been a 4-1 set for Envy, a 4-2 set for Envy, a 4-3 set for Envy, and it turns out flipping around on them. And G2, my goodness, you talk about why they're the number 1 seed. It's moments like that.
They finally start to look. I'm going to ask them that in the post-game interview. What was going on in those first couple? They did not look themselves. And then that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's super easy to point to in this game. They've got Dosups. They've got Cuss Cutie. It's not even off. It's like a Pyre Strike if you want to give credit to that. But they just go out and they just kill people. They don't have great zoning abilities. They're just out there getting frags. And that type of frontline control and dominance and aggression is what made G2 so scary in the summer split.
And they cleaned it up here at the LAN as well. That's a huge win again. Having not been there in the spring, they will be there at the PPL finals just in a little bit against Fnatic. But before we get there, we need to talk about what went right or potentially what went wrong for Envy. Gab Gory, tell us.
It's hard to say. When it's a 4-0 that was just so dominating in the favor of G2, I think you had Dosups getting doubles on Ruckus and just the team overall looking great, whereas the Makoa pick didn't seem to really fall as in line on the side of Envy.
That didn't feel like an Ice Mines map, and it just felt like G2, like they knew exactly what they needed to do throughout all of that. And again, when it comes down to it, I mean, you were up 3-1 not only in the map, but in the last map that you could have won, you were up 3-1 before G2 were able to bring it back. So I have to give it to G2 that it was incredible that they were able to fight back the way they have, essentially barely coming close a couple of times, but barely losing anything since they started that winning.
It was 4-3, 4-3, and then right here a 4-0 to close it out, and it would be easy to going into the sink. I don't know, they were barely coming by in that last round of the last couple of games that were victories. But it makes sense why Envy would be so upset, because you were up 3-1 at one point in the games where all you needed to put away was another, and then the ones that went so close were almost yours.
And it's one of those moments where, honestly, that if you roll back to the picks and bans where you see kind of Rock Monkey and Rubu just slouching in their chairs, they like no emotion on their face, they just look upset and they don't want to be there kind of feeling. I feel like you could tie it back and be like, the game honestly feels like it was lost from that moment on. There was a couple of fights where it's like maybe Envy can actually like win this one, but then they'd make some small slip up, one step out of position, or they'd overstay their welcome, and G2 would just capitalize on it. And they were feeling themselves because of the last couple wins, so they just kept rolling.
And as Alan said, it's going to be a hard one to shake off.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what they have to do. You have a whole slew of LAN after this, and even though it's one that you feel like is going to stick with you, you have no choice but to try to just brush it off and figure out what went wrong and what you can change going into the next day.
Your first match in the next LAN is against G2 again. Like, that's the first thing you have to do. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. I think that's happening Friday, but still, you end up in this position where it's like, you have to fight them again in very close proximity to today. You have to get over it. You have to go home, do what we saw Nocturne's now Burrito do that first day of PWC, where it's just you go back, you watch the VOD, you watch every single game, and you say, what did we do wrong? What did we mess up? Where did we screw it up? And how do we not have that happen again? Then tomorrow you come in, it's a brand new day.
It is difficult to face off against the same team when it went all the way to 7, but congrats to G2 for securing the spot in the grand finals of the PPL. Now let's go ahead and hear what a couple of the players have to share with us.
3, 2, 1.
Sometimes you think you know when a set's over, and then sometimes something like this happens. And the first thing I want to ask Doe is back on Ascension Peak. I think they had maybe 3 ultimates. You guys had 1, a Hexafire that you had to cancel about a second in.
Yeah.
You're down 60, 70, 80% on the point at that point. How do you guys communicate and fight your way out of that situation to get where you are now?
It was looking really, really grim on that point. We were down so much. It was 3-1. They were about to win. I had an ult. They let me through. I had a Hexafire, so like, what can cause the biggest distraction possible, dude? My ult. Shoot all the missiles. They all turned to look at me, canceled it, get the hell out of there ASAP. And then that gave my team and Avoli some room to just get in and really put them to work.
Well, put them to work you did. It was a couple of 4-3s back-to-back, and then you finished things off with a monster 4-0 on Ice Mines of all maps. Where did you guys start to feel that success coming from when it came to taking a high-control map like Ice Mines and finding a way to get 4 straight?
Ice Mines is a map that we practiced a lot. We think that EU might be a little weaker on Ice Mines. We've played it. A lot of teams like to pick it against us because it's considered a map where if you're behind a little bit in skill or coordination, you pick that map in 1-1, 2-2, 3-3. So we got a lot of practice on that map, and we were prepared for it. So 4-0 isn't crazy to us. We were trying.
Eli, obviously, you guys are a pretty high-energy team, or at least you have been in the past. You seemed a little bit more tame overall in this set, while Envy was the one kind of getting out of their chairs and getting in y'all's faces. So how were you guys able to take your mentality and maintain such a level head throughout this set?
We knew we just had to keep going no matter what. Like the Ascension Peak 1-3, we knew it's not over until it's over. It kind of feels like a repeat of Valencia, how we had to reverse sweep Eager.
Yeah.
And that's what we just had to redo, and we knew we just couldn't give up because it felt the same.
You just brought up a very good point that feels like Valencia, the last time you guys were able to take home a major championship.
Yep.
Is that energy feeling pretty consistent?
100%. We have Vex back. We just got a reverse sweep-ish, and it definitely feels like Valencia.
Everything's falling into place.
Yeah, they were taunting us more than we've ever been taunted before, and we kept a cool head. We didn't want to swing it back at them. They're a high-energy team, too. They go on streaks just like we do, I think. Might be an NA thing.
Well, you boys have a lot more work to do, and it's not an NA thing anymore. It's you guys up against Fnatic, so we're going to head you back over to the rooms and wish you the best of luck in the finals.
Thank you.
Thank you.